Hello, everyone, and we are back for the Slot One Super Podcast, episode 15. 15 is kind of crazy, isn't it?
That is wild, yeah.
Wow, episode 15 is wild. Let me actually move my camera up a little bit so you guys can see a little more of my head. But hello, okay. There is a lot to go ahead and talk about, but of course, I have my two lovely I forgot the word. Co-host is the word for that. We have, of course, the Mass Ningen and Dokkan Assets. Say hi. Better say
hello. What's up, man?
Yep, we're so excited to talk about all the things happening today.
Yes, sir.
Surely a lot of content, right? Okay. But before we continue on, if you guys want to help support the podcast and you have any questions, comments, or shout outs, all donations or super chats are going to be read at the end of the show. So if you want to support the Someone Super Podcast, keep us going, feel free to do that, But let's, of course, start into the main topics for today. And we have a pretty big guy, Android 16. So we have the EZA for the LR Androids here. A pretty strong EZA as well. So it's both global and JP same time, following up with the Fighters collaboration. You know what? I know, Ningen, aren't you like an Androids guy? What do you think about the EZA of the LR Androids, dude?
Yeah, I mean, when categories were fairly new to the game, I always really enjoyed the Android category team. When this unit came out in particular, I was quite hyped for them. I got lucky and managed to pull them off their first banner because I wasn't a huge whale at that point still. So pulling a new yellow coin LR is always nice when you're you only have like a few hundred stones to spare on a banner. So I was very happy to pull them back when they first came out. And yeah, I've been looking forward to what they could potentially do, because obviously they had that very, very basic kit, but the idea was there, right? Support unit with built-in dodge, and then you exchange into 16 and he becomes quite the beast. And I feel like they definitely did him justice for sure. Not to say that the starting form is not great either, but yeah, big fan. I think I've seen mostly positive reception to them. I think most people place them at least as like one of the top three, like yellow coin LRs now, because obviously Bulma kind of sits alone on her own tier. Yeah. But I've seen people basically saying that, you got units like these guys, potentially Int Rose, like they're the kind of contenders for spot number 2. So it's quite nice to see them get a decent EZA. The only thing I would say, if I had to make any sort of criticism at all, would be the fact that it would have been really, really nice for 16 to be like a full-on slot 1 unit. Whereas obviously once you exchange into 16, his start of turn defense is not particularly crazy, but then the sheer amount that he gets, like when he attacks, I think the calcs we saw, like when the stats first came out, it's like he gets one super attack and he's already over 1 million defense, which is kind of crazy. So he's very cool, very fun, and he hits really hard as well, so it's a nice combo, right? He's not just a tank that doesn't do any damage. I've seen turns with support where he's doing like 18, 19, 20 million like attack stats as well, which is pretty cool. I guess, again, the other a minor downside as well is a bit of a shame that he only exchanges for a couple of turns. Obviously, with the way exchanges and active skills work, they obviously couldn't change the condition to exchange into him and how long it lasts, because that's part of the condition, which is interesting because it obviously says for the base androids, it says like exchanges into 16 for 3 turns, and so that's part of the thing that they couldn't change. So that would have been nice for him to be out maybe a little bit longer. But yeah, overall I think he's very, very good. I think the one thing I have stumbled into with issues with these guys is with the teams that you want to run them on. Obviously the only 200% leads they have on global is AGL Cell and STR 17. And they're not particularly great, and those teams aren't necessarily all that good. But then you got 21's team, where they only get a 170 lead, but they're perfectly fine under a 170 lead. But that team has so much healing. I've done runs where I've beaten like Fusion Zamasu, Sin, and I just don't get 16 to come out because I don't drop below the HP threshold. Now, fortunately, they're still really good in the other form. But obviously with these cards, it's kind of like the whole thing, the whole discussion we had during the Worldwide with the Blue Boys and Vegito and stuff. It's like when you put them on the team, you want to see 16 come out and do some stuff. So that can be a little bit disappointing, but the unit's still good in their base. So yeah, overall, I would say definitely very, very happy with their EZA. So good stuff.
That's awesome. What do you think, Dokkan Assets? Have you used them?
Yeah, I've used them a little bit. I usually am pretty on top of it, at least doing the EZAs the first night they come out. So I actually talked about this in the last episode. Funny enough, my main purpose for them at this point is using them for Battlefield. But I will say, just in general, from using them a little bit and using them in Battlefield, because I was like, well, I have to try them since I literally said it. Yeah, they are so much better now. Honestly, like, I feel like it's, they're like actually a relevant unit. Like, they went from one of those units in your box that you're like, yeah, I'm probably never going to use this character ever again, to like, okay, this is actually something that I can consider, like as a viable option on the team as a choice. So that, I feel like, is what an EZA should always do. That is like one of the express purposes of an EZA. So I think they did a good job.
Yeah. And yeah, I would agree. I think fantastic job with the EZA, very powerful, good additions. I mean, increasing their dodge chance, giving them all that multiplicative defense, even increasing their support to 50%. I thought it would stay at 40%.
Yeah,
50% is really good. And Negan, you said the issues about the healing. I did run into that, but something you could also consider is you could just run them as your leader, right?
Yeah.
You could argue for Fusion Zamasu, the better Android setup might just straight up be double physical LR Androids, right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that 21 is kind of weak against these AoEs early on. And there's also, it's very fun. We all know the tech cell, the first swarm red zone, that's very difficult. Where it just supers you instantly. You can get 16 out instantly against that fight because one of the conditions is just facing a cell enemy.
Yeah.
So
I
just took him out again with that cell. Then 16 just demolished and took his super for double digits. Like,
damn.
I know those calculations were done with 40% support that you saw, I think, from Harvard.
I think so.
But you got to consider that team has much more support. Like if you're running the actual 21 team, you have Boma, MVP 17, even Toa could be ran on that team.
Yep.
And then it's like his defense could get like above 2 million after a double triple super very easily, which is kind of crazy how high his defense actually can get. And it's like usually, like, how would I say it? Usually I feel like raw defense is definitely not enough in a lot of scenarios if it's like 800k defense, but this dude's hitting like close to 2 million in some turns, which is crazy. And then guaranteed critting sometimes. He has 20 mil attack stats, like you said. It's absolutely insane. I think they did a fantastic job with them, but that's all I wanted to express regarding the 16. It is kind of funny that you could use them as a leader for the Androids team, though. Like, I don't know if that just tells you like the state of the game, because physical units in general are just gonna have an advantage, I think, in the game right now. Because there's Fusion Zamasu, there's in Omega, there's Instant Rose Goku Black, there's the first Zamasu phase. He's in the Goku Black and Zamasu fight, right? There's so many int bosses, and it's like, okay, well,
it's like under a 170 lead. So if you're running him on 21's team or you're running their own leader skill, like you can kind of, if you don't get, because you might have seen, I don't know, people in the chat probably saw already. I posted a video earlier today. I managed to do Fusion Zamasu no items with the double 21 leads team, which was pretty difficult. Oh, I got super lucky with like the RNG for obviously her and the AoEs, but those guys on that team 170, I had all of my slot 1 units on the first turn. So on the second turn, pretty much you love to see it, right? Limited attempts, all my slot 1 units on turn 1. So on slot 2, I had no choice. It's like, well, I'll put the androids in slot 1 because at least they've got type advantage. And obviously, if they dodge the first attack, they get a nice defense buff. But even with not dodging the first attack, I think they took like 80k, 85k, which it's not a small amount, but when you consider that's them being in slot 1, not getting their extra defense buff, like, just being a physical unit definitely helps them out quite a lot. And as soon as they get that first dodge, then they super. It's like, even if they're not dodging, they're just taking double digits. So, very, very good. that dodge I think is really important. I don't think we didn't really discuss, but I guess you guys be interesting to see if you went down the same route. I know Minato, I feel like we often end up with similar kinds of builds for characters, but I pretty much went full dodge. I didn't have a lot of spare stones or anything to change around their hidden potential, but I think mine's got like 19 dodge and then a little bit of crit and additional. Because getting that first dodge, I think, is like the most important thing, right? As soon as you get that, you get the extra defense, the additional super chance, and then they're just super good.
For me, there were like 11 dodge. No, 11, there were 11 additional 12 crit, and I was like, oh, so I had to change that. I used like 20 stones, 25 stones, but I changed that and then gave them dodge skill orbs. I think they're at like 21 or 23 dodge, and then I think 11 additional, and like 3 crit or something, something like that, right? I changed all that crit to dodge, obviously, because already know, but that's what happened there. I definitely messed up on the hidden potential build, and I'm paying the price. It's having multi. That's kind of crazy, but we're all good. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have to talk about with the androids. I feel like we got a pretty good amount of talking with what they're able to do.
Well, what about you, Theo? Assuming you've got them rainbowed? I don't know. What's your build for them?
Actually, no, I don't. I somehow only have them one dupe. I don't even know how that's possible, considering they've been out for a long time.
Free-to-play
I know, right? Dude, I had a spare SA5 copy from pulling 5 extra copies. Like,
oh my gosh, bro, slide one over. Listen, I'll take the dupes off your hands, bro.
Well, sadly, they're all they all went towards the SA25. Yeah. That's,
right, because you couldn't exchange them for coins, right? Because they're so old. Is that what it was?
I don't know. I might have. I just, that's one of the reasons why I have over 1,000 Kais. Is even though I have Kais, I'll just save copies of units. Like any SSRs I pull at this point, if it's for a unit that doesn't have an EZA, I'll just start making an SA5 copy of them. So yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
So
so unfortunately, actually, I only have I just have them whatever they were before, because I just I don't know. I understand, obviously, it's nice that it's an option that you can even change their potential system with stones, but for me, I'm always I don't know, man. It depends on the unit, right? Maybe with the androids, because they are so good, I would actually be using them more, so maybe a little bit more justifiable. But sometimes I'm I don't want to use the stones, man. I just want to use them to summon. So I don't know. Maybe once I get them more dupes, I'll do it. But
yeah, I think that's an interesting sidebar for a moment here. We don't have to harp on it for too long, but people were talking about it when I did the stream, and I EZA'd them, and then I think I changed their skill orbs. I think I changed one of their nodes, obviously for the 5 stones. And we had that thing during the version Z update where they made it 1 stone for however long it was, a month or something. What are our thoughts about this? Because I feel like at a bare minimum, it should just be that permanently. But I feel like you can make a pretty good argument that you have to spend the stones to pull the multiple copies of the units in the first place. If I make a mistake in their hidden potential, I should just be able to change it for free whenever I want. Maybe it costs Zenny or something.
Remember during version Z when it was 1 stone? Why wasn't that permanent?
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what you're just talking about. Yeah.
It was 1 month. At a bare minimum, it should just be that all the time. But why can't it just be free?
I mean, right. Well, because it's you own the unit already, and you own the dupes.
It's I already poured my money / stones into your game to get 5 copies so I could rainbow him. Can I at least change my skill, my additional to crit or something, please? For free.
Yeah.
We just bring that up in the survey next time, because I feel like that's an issue.
That's a good thing to bring up in the survey.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, everybody do that next time there's a survey. Make it so we can change our hidden potential for cheaper or free.
For it. Yeah, exactly. Because that's I feel like that's something that's outdated that no one talks about, right?
Because it adds. Well, that's the thing is.
It's crazy.
It adds up as well, right? Because obviously for, even though I do, whale out a little bit here and there, it's if you have to fully change a unit's hidden potential and you're dropping 25 stones to fix their hidden potential, that's half a multi, right there. And
why can't it just be some extra orbs, potential orbs rather than stones, right?
Yeah, use potential orbs to undo it or something, because
that would be cool. I mean, I'm sure all of us have so many potential orbs by this point that it's that would be so easy, to just crack open your 10,000 potential orbs or whatever you have,
Yeah, 20,000 potential orbs per change.
Yeah, like crazily enough, I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I don't even think that that's that bad. If you play the game,
I'd rather
you
that
will
than
have
5
that.
stones.
I was gonna say I'll pay that
Yeah.
instead of 5 stones, yeah, because I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
obviously for me, I've
Yeah.
got all of my orbs are at like the 9999 plus thing or whatever. So
Right, yeah,
I'll
exactly.
happily do that.
I mean, especially if you're doing, obviously if you're doing your daily orb stages, you should have plenty of orbs.
Even without
Yeah.
doing them, they give out so many now. Like,
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
that's the
they
thing.
do,
It
that's
did
true.
used to cost 10, so I mean, at least it's only
That's
5
true.
now. But
yeah.
yeesh.
Yeah, for real.
All right, so we have an LR that's only on GP as of this
Yes,
current
sir.
moment.
I'm jelly.
Now I know a lot of people were like confused on like why is this on GP and not global, and I feel like global should have gotten a story mode update to at least get the character, but
No,
it's
yeah.
LR,
Next one.
Broly, and Trunks. Yeah, so
Mhm.
again, just to explain for global players, what happened is it wasn't like the LR just dropped and it's like the LR is a surprise, right? We got the SSR and then the TUR in
Yep.
another update, then finally the LR in this update. Global, like Ningen said, should get the SSR for the Trunks starting the next story mode quest mode update.
Yep.
And then from there, in each consecutive update to the story, you guys will be able to get the TUR, then the LR. But the LR seems to be, I think, overall pretty good. I'm not sure, Ningen. I know you usually don't look at characters until like you're able to use them yourself. Like a lot of times you don't necessarily look at the like early videos so you can get a genuine reaction when you use them.
Yeah.
So I'll hop it over to Theo. I know it's a free character, you can farm him.
Yes, sir. I have actually used this character. I think that they're really good, personally. I'm really glad to see that they actually decided to make them good. Because not only are they obviously just really cool, but like,
Yeah.
obviously we don't have like a crazy amount of story LRs, right? I mean, like, are just characters in general. Like, what is it? Is it just Vegito? That's the only other character that like is a notable character from like that you get from playing the story? Am I misremembering that?
Wait, you said
Probably.
Vegeta? Because I
Like-
guess yeah,
like
because you
SCR
technically do
Vegeta
farm
Blue.
him from
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
This is the first character that actually like you play the story mode and you farm him
Yeah.
because like
Right,
you
yeah.
get the Vegito from exchanging in the Baba shop, which counts as well. But
Plus, I guess
Yeah,
you
I
could
think-
you could kind of count like version Z Goku because he has his own missions and story stuff you have to do, and then you get him for free.
I guess so, right?
But yeah, there's
But-
very few like prominent like just free SLRs that you get from just playing the game, right? That don't
Yeah.
involve you grinding 777 medals from an event.
Yeah, crazy, dude. Oh my goodness! Remember the 250 medals from Heroes? We're not gonna talk
Bro,
about it.
No, stop.
I still can't believe that they like I don't know, man. Like there's decisions that like, as just like a Dokkan developer, I'm just like, dog, do they think?
Huh? Do they play?
Do they play the game?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Bros don't. They get the auto farm. That's crazy.
Because it's like
that's what I'm
the
saying,
missions
bro.
that they did to give you the extra medals was just like the same amount that you get from like a normal Dokkan of like Fest, right? So you're getting
Right.
enough medals
Yeah.
that you still need to do like one extra run if you're trying to do like the side banner unit or something. And they're like, yeah, no, that'll do. 28 medals for free. There you go. It's like, oh, but you need
Yeah.
268 or something in total.
Time for another
That's
17 runs. Okay. But yeah, and the animations for this Berlin Trunks for Dokkan Original, I think look pretty good. I'm actually quite
Yes.
satisfied with how they're looking. And the
They
acting
were
skill-
a combination of a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah, I remember because last time we saw the active skill, it's actually in the story mode itself. When you're fighting Hachiak, right? And it's like we saw that and we're like, oh, that's gonna be in that LR.
Yep.
And that's why
Yeah.
it ended up being part of the active skill. So I do like everything with this Broly and Trunks. Now, I guess I'll talk more on the in-game usage, kind of like how good are they in difficult content. Because I actually have taken them into a lot of difficult content, and spoiler alert, they're not good in Fusion Zamasu or Omega, because this is a character that gets all the reduction on super attack. But unlike a brand new Dokkan Fest or a brand new LR that you have to summon and pay money for, this is a free character. So
Yep.
I'm not like, oh, they're not going to Fusion Zamasu. That's unacceptable, right?
Right, exactly.
I think that this character, I like that it's interesting how it's like they know that this is a character you want to super attack with first, so they design him in a way where you always want to put them in slot 2 and 3 because when they come back on rotation, they'll be either in the first or the third slot, which will give them the rainbow orb changing. Which I think I find really cool. It's like they honestly they should have just made a rainbow orb change in general, but I think it's interesting. It's like not necessarily convoluted, but it's like more complex than if like a lot of other Dokkan passive, which is cool. That rainbow orbs, by the way, getting the rainbow orbs to them is so important. You could definitely tell a difference in the damage that they do. But my only issue with this character is that they have only 30% chances to super rather than 50% chances to super attack. Because I feel like a lot of times I did personally get screwed over, and it's like super normal, normal, normal. And then there are situations where if they only get one super attack, they can't tank normals. It's usually like when it's like 2 super attacks, they're able to very comfortably tank normals. It's like that much of a difference because they get the extra 8% reduction, they get the extra 30% stats in their passive, and then the extra 30% stats on their super attack effect. And that adds a lot of defense to them, more than you would think. So there are speculations of this character getting an EZA. What do you guys think about that? About them getting EZA anytime soon?
I don't know. I would think that like right now they don't really like absolutely need it. I feel like a lot of the times when it comes to free-to-play characters that like just release, unfortunately, Dokkan likes to do the funny and they don't just make them good right away. And then they're like, oh well, then we'll EZA them right away, and then it takes away the whole point of the EZA, which is to make them relevant again later when they're not as relevant. So
I agree.
yeah, so it's nice to see that they've actually made a free-to-play character that's like good now, right? Like in their final form.
Yeah, and I would say the thing is for me personally is if they do EZA, I would rather wait in the future for when
absolutely.
the game isn't full of int bosses, and they could potentially even be
Yeah.
better on when the EZA in terms of what the game is like and like the available bosses that we have compared to right now, right? Because there's this whole like AoE int boss like kind of situation going on. One thing I didn't talk about is their active skill. I did kind of talk about the effects. It makes them hit really hard. Like they do like 15 mil attack stats like on their active skill turn, and then they have all these additionals they can get. Kind of crazy. They have a good link set as well. Just I think they did pretty good with this character overall, and you can run them in the most difficult content. They're just like even just as a floater, you can just float them off on the team, and they're able to cook very well. So big fan of what they did with this character for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously you are right, what you said. I usually don't watch like advanced showcases and stuff for units when they come out, but I did kind of want to check out a video for them. I just didn't get around to it because they are a very cool unit. The idea is very hyped to me. I think one of the things that we talked about obviously before when they got their awakening into a TUR and the Trunks became Trunks and Broly, one of the things we said then, was if they were going to become an LR or get an EZA as a TUR, hopefully those medium chances would go up to high. So I think that's something that we could potentially expect to see when they get an EZA, like eventually. Because obviously with LRs, they don't get any extra stats, so they basically have to put all of the work into the passive, right, to make them good once they get an EZA. So I feel like that's a prime like candidate for it right there, right? Give those medium chances, high chances.
That'd be pretty cool.
And they could be looking pretty good. It's one of those things like we talk about when it comes to free-to-play units and getting EZA straight away. I feel like I could see both sides with these guys because if they're good enough now that you can use them, especially for a free-to-play unit, because like Minato said, right, you shouldn't be expecting like, well, I should be able to go and like no item every single like dismal future red zone stage with this unit because they're a free-to-play unit. So you use items, you'll get through just fine. They look good, they do some decent damage. So it'd be cool if they do hold off. But then at the same time, obviously, it's always fun. Like if they got their EZA, like, in 2 weeks' time, and they're insanely good. Like that would obviously be really hype as well. So, be interesting to keep an eye out on what's going on. And then, yeah, as we kind of already mentioned, but just to reiterate for all my fellow global mains out there, it's the next quest update that we should get for global. Will bring the stages where you can farm just the SSR trunks. So we won't have the awakening yet to awaken him into Trunks and Broly. And obviously then it's another awakening for him to become an LR. But now that we know he awakens into an LR, and I'm sure I'll make a video about this when we know the quest stages are actually coming out. But obviously he drops, and make sure you farm up. What is it? You're going to need like 25 copies or so? Was it? So you need to get... You got your 5 paths, you get your slots 25. Open, SA10s, that's what, like 14 copies. Then you got to have a spare one at SA10 and a spare one at SA5, right? So 29 copies.
That's the EZA soon, but
that's if the EZA, but you might as well while you're there, right? While Global only has the trunks, farm them all up.
That's fair.
And then, then when the medals come out, you get your TURs and everything, and then...
keep in mind, when it comes to the TUR, that also drops with the special equipment that I think people may not be aware of. This unit isn't necessarily just good like because of their soul kit, but they have insane equipment. Their bronze equipment can give 800 defense or attack. I think you could also go for attack. Their silver, I think the best one is 1,000 attack and defense, and then gold gives 1,500 attack and defense. They work like how the STR Vegeta Blue equips are, but they're just a better version of them. So they get so much stats in their equipment. It's kind of crazy. Like they get over 8,000 defense. 18,000 defense in terms of a defense stat with their equips. Their attack stat goes up to like what 23,000 or something like that. I forgot the exact number, but they get a lot of stats from those. So you want to make sure you are also farming of those equips as well. That's when the TUR comes out. Just keep in mind the drop rates for that are very bad. If anyone's farmed them, you know that those drop rates suck. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything else you guys want to mention for this LR. No, is that it?
I mean, I'm pretty satisfied with how they ended up, honestly. Like I said, I kind of hope that what they do is the 2 things that I hope kind of like come out of this unit is that they kind of use these guys as like a template going forward for more, just making free-to-play units in this fashion. Like, making them good. And not to mention, the other thing that I'm really hoping for is specifically with this guy, I'm really hoping that they continue to make quest mode characters like this, because honestly, like, it's just such a cool concept, obviously having an LR with Broly and Trunks, that it would be a shame if they just did this for one time and then they never did something like this again. I was saying in my video that I did the animation analysis on these guys, like, it would be really cool. I don't even know how they would really implement this, but if they went back and made like some units based off of the previous quest mode stuff that has already happened, because obviously we're already like 32 areas in now. That would be really cool. And then obviously, hopefully they continue this story. I would assume they would.
I mean, Dokkan, did you see the scripts for the upcoming story?
I saw a little bit of it, but I don't think I got a chance to fully read it.
So it's like Cooler, and then he's like kind of attacking the main gang. And then I think Frieza was mentioned. So it's like, what if we get like a
Cooler and Frieza?
Finally get a Cooler and Frieza unit.
That would be amazing. Like, yeah, that would be super cool. That'd be sick. That'd be amazing. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like, honestly, if they really wanted to, they could just do a new unit like every couple of areas, realistically. Like whenever there's a big story beat that happens, they could just make a new unit. So I hope that they do that more. That's what I'm saying, because honestly I feel like having Dokkan original units like that and like just these wacky character combinations is not only something that people like, but it will be something that I think will bring a lot of people into the game, and can kind of be Dokkan's version of like other games free to play characters, because I've talked about for like a couple of instances like how Legends obviously has like an original character in Shala and Giblet.
You say Charlotte?
Shala, isn't that his name?
Shallot.
I don't know. That's
Shallot?
Shallot? I don't know. Oh, wasn't there an O? Isn't there an O?
You say
right?
Shallot.
I don't know.
Charlotte.
I thought there was an O, so it'd be an O, right? An ot sound.
Shallot. Shallot. Well, because it depends on your it depends on your accent. Because I'm pretty sure in English, because it's like a small onion, isn't it? So I'm pretty sure for like in the UK with like the English like accentuation, it's like shallot, or is how you would say it, or shallots.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, in the game,
it's very weird.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't play with the audio on for Legends most of the time, but
That's
anyway. I know, which is funny because I do with Dokkan. I go out of my way to do it, but I mean that's just because I'm a Dokkan head. But anyway,
Dokkan.
my whole point is that I've like thought for a long time, like, man, it would be really cool if like, you know, Dokkan could have some equivalent to that with having, you know, like, I don't know if they would have like necessarily their own original character or something like that. You know how Legends has that type of thing. Because I don't know how they would implement that at this point in the quest mode, unless they just made a unit of like you, the player, because obviously technically you're a character in the quest mode. But with all that being said, I feel like you doing units like this, where they base it off of the story mode that's kind of like a, you know, Dokkan original story character, would be a good replacement for that sort of thing, or a good sort of equivalent. Obviously, it's not like they're using original characters, but it's certainly original combos, and obviously basing it off of their original story. So, I think that you know, will be really good for the game going forward, honestly, to kind of have that in there. So, please, Dokkan, do more!
I would agree. Please, Dokkan, do more of those.
Yes.
That'd be very awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're on the topic of LRs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next week, very, very soon, we're actually going to get part 2 LRs, or an LR, well, depending on, you know, what global GP is gonna get. So, we know that there's a couple of things to talk about. Firstly, we do know that on, I think, the 12th, at least in my time zone, sales do end for the Android 21 banner.
Oh, okay.
And so does the Fighters collaboration. Basically, it all ends on the 12th, right? From what I'm recalling correctly. So basically, from the 13th is when we should be expecting, you know, maybe the drop for a brand new LR on both global and GP. Now, because the Fighters collaboration is ending, there's not any concrete, like, there's not anything concrete saying that the LR will be the same on global and GP.
Yeah.
So it could be a situation where global gets a global LR and then GP gets a brand new LR. But we'll have to wait and see. So around the 11th, basically, should be when we see at least whatever the new LR is going to be on GP will be announced. We'll get all their details and stuff like that. There's been a lot of talk about what the LR could be. Ningen, what are you thinking about, you know, at least for either the new LR or global, whatever one you want to take over? What do you think is going to happen starting next week?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because so it's the same on global, right? The sales end what is technically like Tuesday morning my time. I think it's like Monday night PST or something, but it's like early Tuesday morning. All the login bonus and missions and stuff all ends on like Tuesday morning. So in theory, there's going to be something going on Tuesday, but but what? Who knows? I think there's maintenance. Let me double check the news as well because there is maintenance.
Yeah, there was another maintenance.
Yeah, there was a maintenance announced. That was
that's Wednesday
today.
So that's
so
after stuff comes out supposedly.
It'd be
which is
Wednesday
odd.
for you and Tuesday for like me and me and and Dokkan Assets, right?
So that's
Yeah.
interesting that the maintenance is after new stuff is going to come out on the Tuesday supposedly. So that's interesting. That makes me wonder if it is. I mean, I know we can just get a day of download, so it doesn't matter. But
I'm pretty sure it's like a few hours before. Then that's when the sales end before the maintenance. Let me take a look here.
Yeah, because I'm looking
no,
at
actually, no, the sales do end the night prior.
Yeah,
that's weird in global.
Yeah, no,
GP,
I'm looking at the
sale ends
global
the day
celebration news now, right? So things like the login bonus, all that stuff, that's all ending on Wednesday night. But the actual the banner apparently goes away. Yeah, see, the login bonuses will stay until Wednesday. That's where I was getting confused. The login bonuses and like the special missions, you know, the typical celebration stuff that we always get goes until Wednesday, basically at midnight. But the 21 banner, according to this, oh no, it's the week after. I'm just stupid. I can't read. I was going to say, it goes on Tuesday, next Tuesday.
It could be a thing where the maintenance ends and then the LR is like maybe the LR is going to be just out in game.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
when the
No, I was
maintenance
I was
ends.
just
true.
misreading the
That's
date.
true.
So yeah, the maintenance ends Wednesday. It's like Wednesday morning, 7:30 a.m. for me. So
Mhm.
usually, if stuff is dropping at the normal global time, it's like an hour before the maintenance ends. So if it's going to be something that's global only, then in theory the maintenance will end, and then whatever it is that is coming out will just be in the game. But if it's going to be something that comes out on both global and JP, that time is like half an hour after that maintenance. So obviously that
Yeah,
would be a possibility as well.
I
So
agree.
realistically, it comes down to, I mean, there's so many different options. We could spend ages talking about them all, but like, I think the two big things, the two main things that it's going to come down to is global is either going to get Omega Shenron, which is like negative
Yeah.
hype at this point, right?
Negative hype, yeah.
People only even really want it to come to the game because it's like, because then we'll get the Omega stage of the Shadow Dragon event.
Yep.
We get the
Yep.
like the baby EZA should be part of that celebration, the LR baby. But yeah, the unit themselves for LR Omega Shenron, not really hype. So the other option, which I think I don't even know anymore. Like it's so hard to say. It's so hard to say like what Dokkan will and won't do because sometimes they have made some interesting like what you'd consider smart decisions lately, but then other times not. Because I mean, you know, after we had this whole thing from the fan meetup where they answered that question about pity, saying they had no plans to do it, but then they brought out a pity
I
system
lied.
for the yellow coin banner specifically, saying that like one of the reasons that we're introducing this is because nobody likes summoning on these banners. So
Yeah.
you would kind of want to put two and two, or hope they could put two and two together. That I feel like no one on global is going to be hyped to summon for Omega Shenron. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I think someone mentioned it in the chat during the last episode of the
Keep in mind,
podcast.
it's double rates as well.
Yeah, which
That
is
is
cool,
true.
but like, you know, on JP when Omega came out, wasn't that the first return of STR Carnival Goku? And for Global, he's already returned because we didn't
Send
get
back a
the
couple times.
anniversary LRs during the worldwide celebration. So the thing that someone mentioned last week, which I think is probably, this is what I would do, right? If I was in charge, whatever LR that JP gets, Omega Shenron will be on that banner, right? Because he'll be
Oh,
returning
that's what
for
I
the
said.
first time.
That
Yeah.
was my idea.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I thought Annie maybe said it as well. I can't remember. But yeah, so Global should just get whatever LR JP gets, but then Omega should just be on the banner as well. We should just be getting two new LRs at the same time because then people would actually summon on the banner potentially because they want the new LR, assuming that they are good and a cool character. And then you have the potential to get Omega as well, which most people are probably not super excited for. But if you do a couple of summons and you get him, at least, you know, you tried to get the slightly better unit and maybe you could get some use out of him. But I just look at it from the perspective, they might not care because we've seen them release banners with no changes and no discounts and stuff. Sometimes, and we just scratch our heads as to why. But like, after everything we've had, Heroes being hype, more people than ever before being excited for Heroes because the units were good. Then 21, big surprise. A lot of people very excited for her. Some people obviously indifferent, regardless of what you think of how good the unit is. Very exciting to go straight from Heroes into that. It just feels like such a full flat on its face for Global.
Yeah.
For them to just be like, oh, there you go. Here's Omega Shenron, like for December. It's like, really?
No.
Like,
Because the
Merry
thing about
Christmas!
Omega is, again, there's not only the Super Baby 2 EZA, then there's the GT EZA, where it's like those three GT characters that get the EZA. I think it's the Goku, the Frieza itself. There is the fact that the Christmas banner, you know, should be coming, and that's the Super Saiyan 4 Goku banner with the 8th anniversary LRs.
yep.
Right.
I think that's another thing you could bring up. It's like, oh, well, you know, it would make sense if they bring out the rest of the GT celebration on global at that time to coincide with that banner releasing. Not that they have to, but you know, it's a thing that they might do because I feel like one thing about it is they could drop Omega at the same time in global, but then maybe they'll feel like they're dropping too much content at once, right? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily the character in the banner, but the content that comes with the character.
Listen, bro, they're trying to catch up.
Right.
It don't matter how much content they release in.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. They're probably just worried about that for some reason. I mean, in my opinion, they should just drop all of it at once, but
Yeah.
it seems like they're very hesitant in doing stuff like that. I think that they would rather I don't know, maybe not drop everything at once, but trying to speed it up, right? But we'll see. We'll see. I
Mm.
mean, what Global's gonna do. Regardless, JP is gonna be getting a new LR, and I want to know what you guys' opinions are on that because I feel like I have two characters in my head that I think it could be. Now, assuming that it's not gonna be some other random cross, definitely possible. I'm like taking a look at like the characters that could fit Android 21's leader skill and what upcoming EZAs we could get. And one of my first thoughts was a new cell, right? So let's say we get a second form cell that maybe he revives into perfect cell or something like that, or it's like he revives and does the explosion into super perfect cell even, right? But I was thinking of like I definitely don't think it's gonna be Fighter's character because the Fighter's collaboration ends. I know there's a lot of people
Right.
saying like, oh, what if it's like a tag team of like, Goku, I don't know, I'm gonna say Goku Trunks and like the Fighters cast or something, right?
Right.
I don't think that's gonna be the case because the Fighters collab does end before the
You
LR
know,
comes out.
that would be
Yeah.
really funny if our first all full Z Fighters unit is a Fighters unit. That
We got
would
that
be kind
last
of
year
whack.
too, right? That was literally what we got last year, so it'd be kind of weird,
Yeah,
right?
true.
But again, like a Cell would be interesting, and
Mm.
I can think that could help round out the Androids team if it's like a slot one Cell character, even if he's like a 200% Androids leader. I think that could really help the Androids team out specifically if they run around out, or they give us Carnival Arcade Boo, and they're like, yeah, here he is.
That would be amazing
Like,
if
Yeah.
they
here he
finally did
is.
it.
He fits 21's 200%. There you go. Mark him out.
Yeah, I was trying to think about some possibilities because I put out a video the other day just going over a few different possibilities for this LR. Hoping that it would be on both versions, but even if not, it's more speculation about JP than anything else, at least.
Yeah.
But I mentioned Cell because you'd mentioned it on the last episode of the podcast, Minato. But yeah, I think Kid Buu, that would be kind of funny because obviously it's been a meme for so long. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, they just dropped
That'd be
21,
amazing.
and like you said, he's on her 200% lead. LR AGL Super Buu finally has a 200% lead with her, but doesn't really have any super meta relevant like Majin Buu partners because they're all starting to get too old now. So that would be crazy if they just actually finally brought out LR Kid Buu. And yeah, he could be on that team, 200% for like margin power. We're getting to the point where hopefully soon we'll see the EZAs for like the physical Buu-Tanks and STR Super Vegito. So physical Buu-Tanks getting his EZA, then on that 200% margin power team. STR Super Buu, I know his EZA is quite old now. He's not like, he was never that insane until you get to Buhan, I guess, and then he was quite good. But I feel like having a proper full 200% team that actually has other meta relevant characters on it, he could see a little bit of a comeback as well. So yeah, that would be really cool because not only would it be the end of the meme of Kid Buu, but he just fits, right? He fits with the 21 release. So I think that would be pretty exciting. The only other thing I was thinking about is obviously I tried to break it down into like the three kind of categories, right? When I was trying to think about it, because we got crossover, because it doesn't have to be fighters, because like when I was saying, it seems unlikely that we'd get a fighters LR, not just because the celebration is ending, but like 21 obviously fits that role perfectly because she's the unique character to fighters, right? Whereas otherwise we're just getting a character that we've already got versions of, but then they just have like the fighters logo. Obviously the 18 link state thing was kind of cool for the free-to-play unit.
Yeah.
We did have the memes. I think we mentioned it last week with people saying it's going to be Super Saiyan Goku link state. Yeah. Which at least
Goku link state.
At least it'd have a different name. But yeah, something else crossover would be cool. Xenoverse. Could you imagine? Now this isn't going to happen, but could you imagine they stick with the crossover theme? And the Part 2 LR for Christmas for both versions is LR Shallot from Legends. Could you imagine? Right?
That would be insane.
People have talked about it ever since Legends existed, right? It's like, are we ever going to get a collab with Dokkan? And one of the big things is the fact that, of course, Dokkan doesn't really have anything to give them because they don't have their own unique character or anything. But we saw, even though it was a very brief thing where it was just a celebration, we got a wallpaper, we didn't get any actual like units or anything, but they did the promotional little crossover thing with fighters, with breakers for their anniversary. So it's just like a bit of advertisement for Legends. We get a unit, but they technically don't get anything. But they've shown that they can do those kind of things in the past, right? Because it's not like Fighters is suddenly getting a new update that has something to do with Dokkan. Obviously, they're getting their rollback netcode stuff. So yeah, it's like a crossover campaign themed around Fighters, but Fighters not getting anything from Dokkan. So in theory, there's no reason why there couldn't be a Legends crossover campaign at some point that brings Shala into Dokkan, and Legends doesn't
we
need
even
to
got
get anything.
Beelzebub for the movie.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah,
Even though
we did
he's
get
just the weird, like, Hercule statue card, basically.
Statue.
But yeah, I think something like that would actually be, that would be crazy hype. I think even people like me, right? Like, I don't play Legends. I tried it out when it first came out. I just don't particularly get on with the gameplay. But I don't dislike it. If other people like it, then that's cool. But even I think that would be awesome. Like, if we got an LR Shala and he was actually good as well, like, that would be super cool. So, keeping it crossover related, I think would be quite cool. Or you got Androids, Cell, maybe Android 13, because, the AGL one could get an EZA. We could get like a standalone Fusion 13 as the LR. That would be kind of cool. And then, we already said like Martian Power, Kid Buu. Fat Buu, I'm pretty sure Fat Buu doesn't have a Dokkan Fest or a standalone LR. He has the free-to-play LR with Barbady, but that would be kind of cool maybe as well. I feel like there's a ton of options, but Theo, what do you think in terms of like, who would you like to see?
Well, I mean, going with the theme of crossover, if we did get a Legends crossover, it would be so cool. If they did Shala, I'm still gonna call him Shala. I don't care.
You said it wrong. You said it differently this both times.
Bro, anyway,
his name is crazy.
Shallot, whatever. Kagi Films.
Kagi Films, yeah.
If shout out to Kagi. Either way though, if we got him and Giblet, however you say his name, right? Giblet. That would be a cool duo card, and their fusion, because obviously they fuse in the Legend stories. Yeah. That would be an amazing card, right? A duo card of them, and then they fuse together. That would be a really cool crossover. That would be super dope to get the both of them in the game in any kind of fashion. In terms of crossover though, the only thing about that, right, is that, like, I don't know if they would necessarily, like, go right into another crossover campaign. Like, I guess it's possible, obviously, because we literally went from heroes to fighters, right? And then it was, which was, like, obviously completely unexpected. But I think it would just be kind of nuts to go from, like, heroes to fighters to either Legends or Xenoverse or something like that. That would be kind of crazy if they did decide to do that, like, back to back to back. I mean, could you imagine, even, I know we're going to talk about it later, but if they had some kind of Sparking Zero collab, where they had, like, a Goku or a Vegeta or something that had, like, the super attack that we saw in the trailer, that'd be
a bit too early, but it'd be sick.
Yeah, I think that would be a bit too early as well.
Could you imagine if
like a good...
You know what would be sick, right? Because I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, so I don't want to get into it too much. Although I think we're getting into it after this, so, it's fine.
Yeah.
But one of the things that people really wanted to come back, and I've seen people already saying that, like, I think we see one in the trailer, but I'm not sure if it's just a cinematic or it actually is in-game. But one of the things that people always really liked about the Budokai Tenkaichi series was the beam clashes, right? So could you imagine if we had like a Sparking crossover? I'm just going to freewheel off the dome here, by the way. A Sparking crossover LR that is like Goku and Vegeta. But the idea of the card is it's them like fighting each other. So their super attack animation is that they do a Kamehameha and Final Flash beam struggle with each other, and then obviously it like explodes in the middle and is basically just an AoE super. Like something like that would be crazy. Because if you think about what they did with the superhero cards, they kind of used that like slightly different art style like from the movie. And of course, we're going to show some screenshots in a minute when we talk about it. But like the Sparking Zero art style looks ridiculous. Like some of especially some of the HD screenshots, like the art style is absolutely insane. So if they had that like slightly different art style, like animation style for
That would be
for
crazy.
that kind of unit. That would be super, super good.
That would be super cool. Yeah, you know, for a long time, I've been talking about. I think this idea really came into my head from. Shout out to the GOAT, JoJo Stardust Shooters. Rest in peace. You'll forever be remembered. They, and I know other games do this too, so it's not like it's just them who like pioneered this idea. To be fair though, they are one of the oldest, as far as I'm aware anyway, one of the oldest like gacha games, at least in terms of just like mobile stuff. But a very like cool thing that they had was they had versus cards, where it would basically be like two characters who were fighting in the anime, right? So it would be like Giorno and Diavolo, or you know, like Dio and Jotaro, right? Like something like that.
Yeah.
And like the super attack animation would be them fighting, and then the enemy, you know, character that you're obviously like duking it out against basically gets caught in the crossfire of, you know, their like battle, basically. That's like the super attack animation. So that would be perfect for that type of thing, and that's something that I've kind of always wanted them to do in Dokkan, for like some versus cards. And I think that they could, you know, that would be a great way to do some characters also who they've like, you know, done a million times already, and people are kind of like, yeah, I don't think I ever want another unit of this. That would be an amazing way to kind of do that. Again, but in terms of other part 2 LRs, right, obviously not talking crossover. I mean, in terms of crossover stuff, right, obviously that would be really cool. I don't know what they would necessarily take from like Xenoverse if they were going to do something like that. It would be kind of funny. I don't even know what different it would be besides like just the normal you know, like just regular Kamehameha or something, but it would be so funny to get the Goku meme, basically, you know, like the, you know, where he like appears like the Xenoverse 2, like it's just the box art, but that as a card art, I think would be so funny. That would be hilarious to have actually in Dokkan. But in terms of just like, you know, normal Dragon Ball stuff, talking about like obviously you know, with like Android 13, because I know obviously we've been saying for a while that he needs an EZA. I think a new Android 13 himself could be cool, but what I really think would be awesome if they did would be a Android 13 movie, Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks. You know, where it's like the three of them on one card. I think that would be awesome. I mean, they could literally just like basically take the art from that one Heroes card, because there's a Heroes card that has like that exact same thing.
I think I saw that on Twitter. Someone posted that, and I think someone else like retweeted it with like a concept for a card for Dokkan. Because I talked about, I think I actually talked about that idea in my video as well. Like, I think something that would be cool. I think because we were talking about with the potential for, this is obviously the part 2 LR we're talking about now. I think I was talking about like the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest, which obviously we're going to talk about in a little bit. So with them, if in that instance, I was only really thinking about it from the angle of them being a TUR. And I don't know, there probably is one that I'm not remembering. I know there's the free-to-play one with all the Kais, but usually the TURs are only really ever 2 characters, right, when they have the Join Forces cards. You don't usually get trios, but like LRs, they do kind of do that. But I was only thinking about it in that mindset, but it still works for an LR. It doesn't have to be a TUR. But imagine if it was Super Saiyan Trunks and Vegeta, but then they have like a standby into the Spirit Bomb absorbed Goku, right? So it's not just another sort of another Super Saiyan Goku, but it just ends up. And obviously that would be kind of funny because the card would be on Vegeta family, but that'd be kind of a cool way to do it, right? So definitely would be interesting to see. But the trio card as an LR, I think, is a really good idea. So
something like that. I mean, even if it's like. Honestly, we've seen characters stand by into themselves, so like it doesn't even matter. Like it should be Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks.
Well, the standby they could almost do. I mean, I guess we don't want them to copy like what we already have too much, but it's like the standby could essentially just be Vegeta and Trunks fighting, and then the end of the standby is Goku does the Spirit Bomb absorbed like super punch thing, which would be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
Also, we don't want too many units that are just like standby is somebody defends Goku until he does a spirit bomb, but still, it'd still be cool.
I mean, it does happen a lot in the series,
Yeah.
so I mean, it makes sense why.
Kind of what
I
the
guess.
standby is like for too, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, me personally, I think I do really want a new cell, like I talked about earlier. A new cell would be pretty cool. And
Yeah,
again,
when was the last time we got one?
it's been a long time, and I feel like the thing with
It's
like
the AGL
Kid
one,
Buu-
right? Is the last standalone
Yeah.
cell? Yeah. So that's
the thing with
Dang.
with Kid Buu is I feel like Buu Saga has like so much stuff upcoming that they could save him for like worldwide or something. But like Cell has already gone to worldwide and like a lot of these LRs and stuff. So I think him just getting like some standalone Carnival LR and then make him just like Bird Coup, but for the Androids team, I think would be sick.
True.
I think
yeah,
that's what
it's just super tanky, builds up by getting hit, and then you can give him an active skill where he does like the self-destruct or something. Be kind of cool. Well, that could be his revive, I guess, right?
Yeah, like a revive, or maybe just his normal transformation. He absorbs 18 into Perfect Cell because we don't have that. Well, we kind of have that in game, but I feel like we could get that like voiced or something. I don't know, like a better animation.
Well, they could give him the sort of similar, because we were just saying about like more units not just being the same as like a Spirit Bomb standby. They could give him the equivalent to like the GT Duo standby, right? So he goes into a standby, and then if he gets killed, he self-destructs and then comes back as like super perfect cell. That'd be sick. Yeah,
I think that'd be cool. We just need more cells, right? I think that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, more.
And if it's second form cell, link with the perfect cell that we have in game, right? I think that'd be sick.
Yeah,
I will say I am a little bit coping, even though it would make like 0 sense for it to be right now. I still kind of want the Part 2 LR to be Dragon Fist Goku. But
well,
I mean,
that's we're going to talk about New Year's in a bit, so
I mean,
we'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna hop into the next topic then, since we're already kind of touching on it. But
yeah, that sounds good.
Just a quick reminder for y'all, everyone watching. If you want to help support the podcast, if you got any comments, questions, or even shout outs, we're going to read all donations and super chats at the end of the show. So just throwing that out there if you want to help support us here at the Slot One Super Podcast.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, we already touched on it a little. We have New Year's upcoming now. Very funny. Before the podcast, I was talking to Dokkan Assets, and I was like, do you know what the hint we got for New Year's or something? And he was like, I have no idea. And I was like, I'm gonna keep it a surprise for you, right? Because
what he's about to
Wait,
say.
you didn't see this?
First reaction.
No, I somehow didn't see this. No.
Okay, so what happened is a few days ago, like 2-3 days ago or so, JP Dokkan did give a announcement in game. On the 4th of January in 2024, which is, kind of weird that they're announcing it this early, considering we're a month away from it. They're taking away some Extreme Z areas, which is the Lord Slug Extreme Z area, the Android 13 Extreme Z area, and the Cooler Movie one. They're taking them away, and then they're going to combine them into a Movies Extreme Z area.
Oh,
and that's just going to be out, I assume, because it goes away a minute before events go live. Like those 3 go away like a minute before the events go live. So I'm assuming that's just going to go away then, and then the new event is going to go live.
Right.
Is what should happen. And obviously, guess what's going on the 4th of January? The New Year's celebration. Last year for New Year's, what came out on the 4th of January was Blue Gogeta, and then Physical Broly's EZA. And then the year before, I believe, we got like the Free-to-Play Supreme Kai and the Gohan and Videl, like their EZAs, right? In the Extreme Z area. So, I mean, usually around that time, the EZAs are matching what the New Year's theme is, since the New Year's characters.
Interesting.
So,
interesting.
There's a hint for New Year's, or I think like a soft confirmation of New Year's being movies themed, right?
Interesting.
Which is why I'm thinking the Part 2 LR may not be New Year's themed, because they kind of like hopping back and forth between these different, sagas at this point, right?
Right.
Like they don't usually go like movies into movies like that anymore. Right. They do like movies into like, I don't know, GT into Cell Saga or something. Yeah. They like to keep things fresh. So I'm like, okay. I mean, me personally, I think that kind of pushes towards a movies theme. And now I'm kind of on the ride of, let's say, a Broly themed movies New Year's. There's a
That
lot
would
of
be
Broly
cool.
stuff upcoming. Tech Broly EZA is upcoming. There is, I think, some of these Broly movie not sub EZAs, EZAs, like from the movie 10. So it could be like Gohan versus Broly, or my ideal pick is God Vegeta versus Broly. Give
That
God
would be
Vegeta his first
cool.
Dokkan Fest. Wrathful Broly finally getting a new card. Dragon Ball Super Broly.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd
That would
be
be
sick. But
crazy.
this is your first time hearing about this assets. What do you think
That-
about this?
That is really interesting.
Mhm.
See, first of all, that's really cool because obviously, I don't know, I feel like for some reason, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like when it comes to like Christmas, maybe it's just because I associate it with like LRs that we've gotten in the past, or it just feels like it, but I feel like Carnival LRs and like even the Christmas LR to a certain extent just feel like perfect stuff for movie characters.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because obviously like with the anime, right, you see the character in there for longer. Of course, it's part of like the main continuity or something like that. But I feel like always, I don't know, they just feel like so fitting for something to come from a movie. Maybe it's also because they technically have less to work with because obviously, you know, you can take, I mean, I guess they could just take from anything, but
Yeah.
obviously mostly they take from the movie itself. That is really interesting though. Obviously that is all Z events, right? Everything that you mentioned, what you said, Lord Slug, Cooler, and what was the third one?
But the Android 13 movie, right? But keep in
That's
mind
right,
that those
that's
are the
right.
only like movie Extreme Z areas. It's gonna be
That's fair.
specifically
That's fair.
movies.
Yeah, so isn't
right?
it? It'll be one of those things like the Red Zone and stuff, where it's going to be called like Movie Edition or something. So.
Yeah,
Right, movie
exactly.
edition, yeah.
Like even if we get like Dragon Ball Super movie added to there,
Right.
it'll be
Yeah.
added there. I'm assuming because
That's
of the
very
Extreme Z area of
interesting.
movies, most likely, right? So that's the thing with that. There was one thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, I mean if you're in the chat, you haven't cleared those yet. Make sure you clear those before.
Oh, because they'll reset.
Because
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
reset and you can get a couple more
Uh-huh.
stones. That's right.
Mhm. Even if you don't do
Now-
the easy all the way, which I think you should probably,
I
you
think
know, you still get more stones doing that.
the
Yeah.
only caveat for this is that it has not been announced on global yet.
That's
which
interesting.
Is interesting. It could be
That is
three
interesting.
Yeah,
things.
true.
One, global makes an announcement later. Two, global doesn't get it.
Could you imagine?
Or three, it has nothing to do with New Year's and it's actually for anniversary.
True, or it's just random. I mean, you know,
I mean,
Dokkan-
it's very
Dokkan does do
rare that they
sometimes.
like would do something.
That's
like that,
true.
right?
That's true.
I would
just out of
assume
nowhere.
there would be new stages added, or it'd be related to a theme.
Right.
It could
I
be.
would think so.
It could be they're preparing ahead of time for Beast Gohan anniversary.
Yeah, because you would
Don't
assume
get my
like,
hopes up.
that's the thing, right? Regardless of what celebration it is building up to, you almost certainly have to assume the only reason they're doing it is because a new movie hero, like, or movie doesn't necessarily have to be hero,
Right.
but a new movie character is going to be getting an EZA or like a free to play
Like a
because it's an
free-to-play
Extreme
one.
Z area.
Right, exactly.
Because that's what I was trying to think about when I made the video talking about it the other day when we saw that hint thing. It was like, well, I was trying to think of some cool ideas for movies, but then at the same time, I was also trying to think of ones that would have a free-to-play unit that will get an EZA because it's specifically related to Extreme Z areas. And I was thinking along the same kind of lines, like Minato was saying, Dragon Ball Super Broly. There's the Int Super Saiyan Broly and the physical Golden Frieza from the story event. They don't have EZAs. They gave EZAs to the Winter Goku and Vegeta, but they never EZA'd that Broly and Frieza. So they would need an Extreme Z area.
Yeah, because Goku and Vegeta
yeah.
awaken from like an Extreme Z area event, don't they?
Uh,
From the Wrathful Broly one?
I think
I-
so,
like,
yeah, they
they
have a
don't have
different
their
thing
own
or
Extreme
something.
area,
Yeah,
right?
so
Same with Gogeta.
yeah, so they
Um,
could be a movie one.
And
Yeah.
they could. There's, this is gonna be very nice sounding to you, Dokkan assets, but there's the Great Saiyaman, the It one, and then I think the Tech one. I think the Videl. Don't they need EZAs? I know for sure they're from Wrath of the
That's-
Dragon, right?
Yes,
do
they
they
are
not
from
have
Wrath
him?
of the Dragon.
That kid Trunks.
No,
need
I
it?
don't think they do.
No,
Yeah.
the Gohan doesn't. The Videl might. Let me actually double check. I saw
Yeah.
someone talking
I
about
know
it,
Kid Trunks doesn't. The
Yeah,
one
there's
with
the tech
that
Kid
gets
Trunks with the
Sapion's
sword,
but
isn't
Kid
there,
Trunks
right? Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah. But the Gohan, there's also Great Saiyan Gohan. I don't think he has an awakening.
Oh no, yeah, he doesn't even have an awakening. Yeah, no, I thought I could picture the art in my head because it's the sideways on like key blast thing, isn't it? But
Like-
I could picture the art in my head, and I was thinking, does he have an EZA? But yeah, he doesn't even have a TUR awakening. So
Yeah, which is wild,
There's
honestly.
the same for that Videl. There's a Great Saiyan 2 Videl. Like that from the Wrath of Dragon movie. There's the
That would be
Gohan
amazing.
from that one. There's the Tapion from the Dokkan event. Like, what if it's like 4
oh yeah, the
characters
physical
together?
Tapion.
Oh my gosh, that
They could-
that would make the only thing is though, obviously you would assume that like one of the units would probably be Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right?
Yeah. I mean, it could be just Hirudegarn.
Would they really make a full Hirudegarn? I guess they would,
We got
right?
giant Janemba.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Is Janemba as big
Yeah.
as Hirudegarn? I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't know if Hirudegarn's bigger, but
Well,
like,
I
there's
mean, because we've had the
bigger,
same
yeah.
debate in the past, right? With people saying like, "Oh, they'll never do a Cell Max card because they haven't done a unit."
True, that's
that
true.
big.
Yeah.
Well, that would be
I don't
kind of cool
even
because if they
mean
do a
from-
Hirudegarn card, it means that Cell Max is definitely on the table. So
That's
Well, I
true.
feel like
That's true.
No, Max is 100% on the table, no matter what.
oh yeah, no, I
wouldn't
think
do
so
it.
too. But yeah,
Well, I don't really mean from like the perspective of how big he is. You know, this is bro. The tale as old as time. This is the Ridley is too big for Smash argument all over again. But
The Dokkan event for Tapion is for Hirudegarn. It's specifically a Hirudegarn
that's
Dokkan event.
true. That is true.
True.
I meant more so like would people summon for it? Like would people summon for a solo
Yeah, I don't
Hirudegarn
know.
card?
Does it really
That's what I
matter?
mean.
New Year sales are like so good, anyways. And
I
in
guess
Super Saiyan
that's
3
true.
Goku, that's the main
That's
attraction.
true.
And
That's
that
true.
way, it
yeah.
use a lot of times
Because
when it's
if
like
you
a
think
villain
about it,
and-
right? So let's say that they were going to do a Hirudegarn. So if we talked about it, I think last week. So you got one banner is Dragon Fist Goku, and then like a cool Barrier Vegeta, and then the other
Yeah, that'd
banner
be
you
awesome.
got Hirudegarn. Just make him an absolute monster. Like it's basically try and make the units very similar, right? So
Ma Junior
Goku's going to
with
be
Bar.
all out offense. So make Hirudegarn just crazy offense, does tons of damage. Is obviously movie bosses. I don't know what other categories a just standalone Hirudegarn would have. And then you make the side banner unit. Obviously, it would probably be a new Hoi, who is another character no one cares about, but just make him a
Yikes.
super like ridiculously good support
60%
unit.
extreme class
Make him the
support.
extreme TUR version of Bulma, and then
Oh yeah,
know?
there you go. Well,
People aren't
do we
necess-
really want the Hoi to fit that? Bro?
I mean,
You know
people
what?
will
Why
summon for
not?
it if he is. So
I guess that's
You
true.
know?
That's a good point. That is a very good point. Yeah,
because then it
that's
becomes
fair.
a case of like Minato said, New Year's sales are always good, and then if people really don't care about Hirudegarn that much, they'll just summon for Goku instead if they make him
Or
good
they
enough,
just buy the
right?
sales for your
Or they just buy
anniversary.
the sales, yeah. So
True, true.
I feel like that's a perfect opportunity to get in a character that isn't as
That would be
popular.
such a
But
And
funny
then
time
Dragon
line
Fist
we would live
Goku
in, man.
something. See,
You
that would
know-
be good. Again, they could also do, like I said, Dragon Ball Super Broly. Those characters, I feel like those characters feel like TUR do Dokkan Fest, right? But so do
Yeah.
these characters. I feel like Dragon Fist Goku could be a TUR. I think that's fine.
yeah,
but
standalone
yeah,
Blue Gogeta and full power Broly. That's
no, those
yeah.
are not
When?
LRs. I think.
when I don't know. I feel like you could get away with it,
At this
but
point, like I don't know. I feel
I
like
think those should be
either.
LRs.
I agree that I
Maybe.
feel like they
Worldwide
should be, but at this
celebration
point,
of
I would
life,
think they
you know?
could be either. I don't know.
I feel like
TURs?
Broly
No,
probably
no, no.
deserves to be an LR because Gogeta doesn't really have
Broly-
one. But
I mean, Gogeta has one, but like
Yeah,
Broly especially deserves an LR. Is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
yeah.
yeah,
And give Ralph or Broly a TUR. Right, that's fine.
yeah, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be really
But,
cool, man. Oh,
there's
this
a
is
lot they could do with
excited.
the movie. So that's
You know what
I'm,
would be
like, very
even more
excited.
funny if we're just saying like, imagine if the Dokkan Fest for the extreme started off as Hoi and then becomes Hirudegarn. So we have a Dokkan Fest Hoi.
Oh my
God,
That would be hilarious. Dude, the categories
That
on
would
these
be
would be
wild.
awful.
Dude, that'd
Yeah,
be so
he-
funny.
What is
Movie
what
Box
is the
movie?
what does the SR have? Minato, what is he?
Oh,
do you
God.
know?
Let me-
like,
I'll bring it
off the
up.
I
head
have
Bring
what
it
he
to
has?
look it up. Hold up, let me see.
The-
Shocking.
That would be because it's only the SR. That's the only character that he
You got
has.
Dragon Ball Seekers, Terrifying Conquerors, and Space Traveling Wars. I mean, he has thirst for conquest, you know.
Okay.
I mean,
alright.
technically, he'd be on movie bosses as well, right? Because it would be
I mean-
Hoi / Hirudegarn. So
Right. That's
well,
true.
No, actually, because it's only the categories from the first character.
well,
I'm saying.
it depends
Oh.
what the. It depends how they do
I mean,
it, right? Because
Sometimes, because Vegeta Nappa is on Inhuman Deeds because of the exchange. So I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But they'll work away. I mean, they've done goofy stuff before, right? Like we got, they made an LR Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta for anniversary and actually gave him Saiyan Raw, even though none of the other ones have it. So
I mean,
there's always the
also
possibility
remember
they could do
Golden
stuff like
Frieza and
that.
Sorbet. Not an
God,
exchange,
yeah,
but Golden
that's
Frieza and
true.
Sorbet.
God, yeah, they are terrible. But the less said about them, the better. But,
I just let's not make any goofy stuff. Let's just give it Rudigarden, please.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
Bro.
saying. I think it'd be fine. I think it'd be fine to just be.
Or it could
Hirudegarn.
be it could be like it could still just be Tapion into Rudigarden too. Like they could just do
Yeah,
that again.
I think that'd be fun. I mean,
But, I
to
would
be
prefer
fair,
just
we
the
do have a
Rudigarden.
couple already.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would
they
just prefer-
showed last year with the fact that it was Gohan and Piccolo. It doesn't always have to be to like a super and an extreme. I know. I guess unfortunately the problem is extreme is always in that kind of bad spot at the moment in Dokkan. So
Yeah.
every time there's a potential for a new extreme LR or Dokkan Fest, and then they just do 2 super type ones instead, is always a little bit disappointing. But yeah,
Yeah.
it could be Tapion into
That's
Hirudegarn
true.
again or something. But I think standalone
Yeah.
Hirudegarn would be fine.
Yeah.
He's not like the hypest character choice for a lot of people, I think, but
Mhm.
just make the card good, make the animations good, like, and then yeah, people will summon for the new Goku,
That's true.
and then probably summon for him as well afterwards, maybe. And if they don't, they don't. But yeah, people will summon for the Goku. They'll buy the sales either for Goku or to save for the anniversary.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's the thing we've seen in the past, right, with some of these characters that some people will obviously never summon for a character that they really don't like, but sometimes you just have to make the card good enough, right? And then people will summon
Right.
for it. So
That's true.
So
I mean,
yeah.
that's why it's always so weird when Dokkan makes like, these characters that's like, okay, surely this character must be cracked out of their mind because nobody
Yeah.
cares about this character, and then,
And then
they
they're
make
not.
them absolute
Yeah.
dog water. Yeah.
Like
And then it's
Raditz.
like, well, yeah, like Raditz.
But it's like
Um,
Raditz is a prime example of like being done dirty though, because like obviously
he released an April Fool.
Raditz is in like,
He was.
what is
he
it in
was,
the
that's
end? I
true.
don't know what chat in terms of chapters or non-filler. We're talking like less than 10 episodes. I don't know how long that be is.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But like
Quite
I
literally,
always thought
think
Raditz
it's
was
3
cool.
max.
I always thought Raditz was cool. He's like, he introduces
it
the
was
whole
done
story of
dirty.
Z essentially, right? He tells the story of like
Yeah.
the Saiyans and all this kind of stuff. His design's kind of cool. He's got big crazy hair. Like I've always thought it would be cool for him to at least get a card that was good. So him getting a Dokkan Fest, like I wouldn't say he was like my number one hype choice. Like yes, finally Dokkan Fest Raditz, but like they could have at least made him good. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, but could you imagine like, that is the exact example, right? If they had made that Raditz instead of being like the worst release of the year at that point, if he was like the best release of the year at that point,
That would be crazy.
people would have been so hyped for that release, right? Because Pure Saiyan drops are always good for various teams and whatnot. Like if he'd been
I mean,
really good, like man, it would have been
I
so
hate
good.
to say this because my stance is that I never want a unit in Dokkan to be bad because obviously I just always prefer that they're good. But I will tell you, man, like only from the perspective of the memes, like the fact that Raditz is as bad as he is has just brought so much funny shenanigans to the Dokkan community. I feel like that honestly, like, can't be exchanged for anything else that we've
That was
gotten
a
in
gift,
Dokkan.
to be honest.
Yeah,
It
true.
was a gift, truly. It was like, I don't know, man. It's just because of the hilarity of all of it.
Yeah.
It just makes it so much more funny. So I don't know. In that regard, I know that's just kind of trying to look at the positive side of it, but by golly, if it ain't just one of the funniest things that we've ever gotten in Dokkan. I mean, people literally like Raditz has become such an iconic meme that like even at this point, it's literally like the first like couple notes of that drum of his OST you can recognize when they play in some Dokkan meme. It's like become the Dokkan equivalent of like the first note of Ultra Instinct, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just become such a goofy thing in the community that I feel
Man.
like that aspect of it at least can't be replaced. So
It's
in
just-
that regard, I'm glad he's bad, but I hate that he's bad because he's bad.
Yeah,
What
it's just a
else
shame.
have you replaced?
It's just a shame it had to be Raditz, right? That took the
Right.
L. But yeah.
Right, the character that always takes the L.
Well, yeah.
Well, you know what? I'll segue. You know what's not an L? What's that hasn't been an L just yet? Sparking Zero.
Yes, sir.
So,
Boy.
we're like, I mean, to be honest with y'all, there's not much going on in Dokkan right now, as we're all of us are excited. I'm sure even many Dokkan players are excited for Sparking Zero.
Oh
We
yeah.
just want to talk about it just a little bit. You know,
Mhm.
it's our podcast. We talk about what we want, right?
Hell
But,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, Sparking Zero, I mean, dude, that trailer, I personally have a reaction on my channel for it, but
That was
that was
crazy.
crazy. Just, oh my god, it
Dude.
looks so good. So, I mean, I know I was screaming, hollering, going insane. Just amazing. Okay. Well, I gotta
Oh.
ask y'all, you know, what do y'all think about the beautiful
Oh.
trailer?
Oh man, I will say so first of all, I was watching the Game Awards like live with like 10, 15 people in the VC, and all of them are
Yeah.
Dragon Ball fans. So
Uh-huh.
when that trailer popped up, it was quite literally screaming, like everyone was screaming. There was not a single person that was not screaming in that call, which was awesome to be a part of. But
It
like,
was so funny for me, because I was just like, I was in a server with my friends as well, right?
huh?
And I was like, okay, we were just talking about something random, and Jeff, he was like, I don't know you Dragon Ball fans will be very excited for this one. And I heard it first. I was like, Dragon Ball? I peeked into it. And
Yeah.
then I was like, no way. And then when you saw Goku and Vegeta fighting, I was just saying, sorry for interrupting. I just like,
No, you're fine. No, I agree. When he said that, when he was like something for Dragon Ball fans, I was like, BT4, please. I'm on my
Yeah, dude.
knees, dude. Oh my god.
That's exactly what happened. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and it was because in the UK they started at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So
Oh,
it
yeah.
was like 3 a.m. or something, and I'm starting to flag at this point a little bit. But literally, exactly what you said, right? He's like, "Oh, this is something for you Dragon Ball fans." Straight away, I was like, "Wait, what? They're gonna show a Tenkaichi 4 trailer at the Games Awards?" And like, even at that point, it was just like, you know, sat watching the trailer. And I wasn't like screaming and shouting because, you know, again, it's super late and whatnot over here. But
Yeah.
like, just out of any of the other trailers, it was the number of times where you just things are happening and you're sat there going, oh, like it's just so much like, just, oh, it looks so good.
It
Like,
was just, it was one thing after another. It was, see, I'm so glad that I was watching that live because like that was so much more hype just seeing it happen like that rather than just like going on Twitter and seeing the trailer, right? Like, which
Dude.
obviously, you know, that's just kind of how it be in the modern day of gaming. But having that just be, you know, like you literally experience it live, just like, you know, out of the blue like that, like a complete surprise was so awesome.
This is why not having leaks for this game so far have been so good. Imagine if there was leaks and people are like, Budokai Tenkaichi 4 trailer is going to be out in the Game Awards today. Like, it would not have been nearly the same experience.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I 100% agree. They've been doing a great job keeping it down pat, for sure.
The fact that it came out and then no one expected it. Like,
yeah, it was
no
just
one because we're all thinking like at the battle hour or even Jump Festa, right? It's like, okay, we're expecting a trailer there, and then they're like Dragon Ball fans. They showed it. We were just going crazy. I remember I was like, "Oh my goodness!" We saw Ranger 17. We saw Jiren. Bergamo was there, and you know it's funny because everyone's talking about Bergamo. It's like, yeah, it was like they put Bergamo in there to let us know that everyone's gonna be there.
That was such a cool like aspect because they did talk about it later on the website, right? Where they said that on the site. You know, this would be like the largest roster ever, which is crazy.
So,
I mean, that would make sense considering obviously, you know, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and now we have all of Super, right? Because obviously, besides like I guess Xenoverse 2, when was the last time we had a game like this where all these characters from Super were existing? You know,
two things I have to say about that. One, they did actually update the site. They changed it to historic number to an incredible number. So we'll see if it's actually
I don't know. I feel like that's just flavor time.
Historic number is saying like, oh yes, it's gonna have more numbers than Budokai Tenkaichi 3. But this one's like an incredible number, right?
Yeah, when I saw the thing about historic as well, like I kind of read it like I'm sure a lot of people did, which is maybe why they changed it. But you kind of read it as like, oh my god, that means this is going to have more, or at least the same, I guess at a minimum, than any other Dragon Ball fighting game. Because you know, games like Fighters, obviously there's a lot of characters now with the DLC and stuff. But when it came out, what I actually don't remember. I don't want to guess a number that's way too low, but
you know what?
you
I
know,
just
20,
saw something
24
else.
maybe at most. But I did a quick Google and like Tenkaichi 3 apparently had 98 characters in it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
if this is like the same or more, like,
That
damn.
would be insane, yeah.
Damn.
I just saw something else. Never mind. So the JP site specifically states is going to have the largest character roster in the series.
Interesting.
Hell
So
yeah.
I mean, yeah. And another thing is, there was someone, I think it was DBS Hype. that
Hype,
did
yes.
state
Hype
that-
made a very interesting confirmation where apparently there's going to be characters from, Super GT, obviously Z, and Daima apparently is
and
also
the
going
original
to be.
series is too, of course.
Yeah, and Dragon Ball, of
Yeah.
course. But
There's one
apparently
franchise
Daima
missing from that
characters.
list though, isn't there though, Theo? That's
Heroes.
yeah,
Zero,
where's my heroes?
God,
Where's my
Dragon
heroes
Ball.
characters in this fucking Zero?
Imagine if we see like a Super Saiyan 4 Vegito trailer and
Dude,
Heroes.
oh my gosh. Funny enough,
Oh,
I was
man.
talking about that with the boy Luca Dokkan. Shout out to Luca. We were talking about a little bit in DMs that it would be so amazing if they implemented some heroes characters. I don't know if they would do that because of like, licensing and all that shenanigans,
Yeah.
right? And how that all works for like obviously, like the game being released outside of like Japan and whatnot. But not only would that be so cool, I will say the nice thing about obviously this game being on Steam is that at the very minimum, right? Like, as no, this isn't necessarily the answer that like is the best answer, I guess, but at the very least, because it is a game on PC, for a fact that people are going to go crazy with mods.
Yeah,
So
true.
at the very least, all of those Super Dragon Ball Heroes characters that people want will be in the game thanks to mods. So at the very least, I suppose at least we have that. Obviously, that's not the same thing as, it being like an official thing in the game. But still, at least that's a little bit of copium.
You know what's
I mean,
gonna happen?
yeah.
You know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be a licensing issue, and they're gonna take a page out of the Dokkan book, and there's gonna be heroes characters in the game, but you can only play as them during November.
Limited.
Dude, that would actually be so funny, though. I'm not gonna lie. That would be the limited time play session. That would be great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I will say the one thing I am going to be really interested to see how they handle is how they handle DLC, right? Especially with the fact that they've been, like talking about how many characters are actually going to be in the game. I'm going to be really curious to see what that means for DLC characters. Like, how many are there going to be? Obviously, how much are they going to cost, right? How big will the base roster be? Will there even be DLC? I would assume so, considering, we're in the modern era of gaming. You would think that there would probably be DLC.
I mean, I would assume there's gonna be DLC.
Yeah, I would think so too, but it'll just be interesting, to see.
I need to see Beast Gohan in this game.
Dude, oh my gosh. If they released the Gohan Beast trailer for the game,
Imagine his transformation.
dude, oh my gosh. The transformation's gonna look crazy.
We haven't talked about this, but the stage destruction
Dude,
is
yeah.
crazy. They're really like pushing on stage destruction. So
Yeah, they're definitely using because the game is running on Unreal Engine 5. Which for those of you in the chat maybe who aren't gamers like that, obviously that is basically like one of the most modern and probably one of the best engines that they could possibly choose to run the game on. Obviously that's what allows for the game to have such incredible physics and for the game to look so good and for basically everything that you're looking forward to in the game to be possible is in part thanks to Unreal. So obviously that is really exciting from the perspective of just like having the game be even better than before. I mean, that's the reason why the game is only on PS5, the new Xbox,
basically modern gen.
Yeah,
right,
dude, that's so
gen
good.
console.
Yeah, because it sucks for people
really
that
cool.
don't have the
It
new
does.
consoles, but man,
I
it means
mean,
they don't have
if-
to hold back. Like,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Imagine this is on the Switch, bro. It'd be cooked.
Well, here's the
I'm
thing.
so sorry. Switch users, it'd be cooked.
No, you're right. I
they're
do
saying-
have a little bit of speculation on that actually, because I know that there has been a lot of games where they have, you know, basically like not been announcing them for the Switch essentially, because I mean, of course, you know, like at this point these games are getting too powerful that the Switch like literally just can't keep up. And I kind of think that they're gonna announce like the Switch 2, and then, you know, that will basically be like a lot of these games that aren't on the Switch or whatever Nintendo's next console will be. Maybe not necessarily the Switch 2.
I mean, is it getting time for Nintendo to get to their next console?
It is. It's honestly
talking about this.
I know. Well, we are, you know, regardless though, you know, it is really cool. Like Minato was talking about with Bergamo, I think that is perfect. Like, you know, a way for them to be like, hey, you know, it's not just gonna be, you know, like the main cast and then like, you know, the main villains and stuff like that. You know, it's obviously gonna be.
You think about
all these random characters.
I mean, he's a meme from Dokkan and stuff, but it just, you know, people working on the game probably. I mean, they probably do know, they're probably Dragon Ball fans, right? But they're probably not operating under funny meme strategies, right? So
True.
if you think about it, if Bergamo is in the game and you think how character of like little importance he is overall in the Universe Survival Saga, it means like every other Universe Survival Saga character that you would say is even remotely above him in levels of like relevance, they're all going to be in there, right? So we've already seen Jiren, but Dispo, Topo, like all the, like, it's just everyone who you think is even remotely more important than Bergamo, they're obviously all going to be in there if he's in there. So it's kind of like a funny, I didn't even think about it when I first watched it, but maybe we're thinking too much into it, but maybe it even could be this funny sort of like, yep, even he's in here, because it's just showing you just how many characters are actually going to be in it. Like, it's crazy.
I mean, I don't know if that even means like, you know, maybe even characters who are lower on the tier list who like appear in the Tournament of Power for like one episode or like even less, you know, like we're talking like the invisible guy, right? Like who Piccolo is fighting, the little like bug guy. We're talking Dr. Rhoda, right? Who we still don't know what his secret power is. You know, we're talking the guy who was like, Annie Raza, right? We're talking like the Kamen Rider guy where his like, you know, the letter changed or whatever. And then he got, that guy, right? Like all of these random characters could very well be in the game, which I think is awesome. And yeah, like I know that obviously people are going to be playing as like Goku and Vegeta and Broly and Jiren more than like these random characters. But not only is it just way cooler to have them in the game and makes a lot more of a diverse cast, but it's also just a lot more interesting of a game, and not to mention, you know, just more of a ode to Dragon Ball, right? Of like all these different various crazy characters that the series has. So.
What else is interesting? I saw a tweet right now about it from Ziad actually. Shout out to Ziad.
Ziad, yeah.
But Gohan wasn't shown at all in this trailer.
That is interesting. And they showed Trunks twice.
I'm just saying, Gohan trailer.
Yeah, they're saving it. They're saving it for that Beast trailer, baby.
I hope so, man. I will be watching Battle Hour live, so if we do get a Gohan Beast trailer, I might just be screaming to the heavens, dude. Oh my gosh.
One thing I saw people say as well, which I think is maybe an interesting point. I don't really know how much they usually do this kind of stuff, but I saw a lot of people saying that they were surprised that they showed it at the Game Awards as opposed to showing it at like Battle Hour or, you know, just a special like Shueisha event or like, you know, some sort of thing. And I think that it's actually like a really good thing, right? It kind of shows that they're really putting it out there into like the mainstream, right? Like they're not just showing it at their own event. It's like, no, this is the Game Awards where all of these big things are going on. Everybody's watching it. They've got like celebrities and all this other stuff there. It's like, this is where we're showing like the Dragon Ball trailer because this game is like a big deal. Like, I think that's really cool. But yeah,
I agree.
So, very,
very definitely exciting. Like, oh yeah, it'll capture a lot more of a wider audience.
The one thing I will say though, so I don't know what your guys' thoughts. I mean, obviously we're all excited by the prospect of it. So is it going to be day one purchase for you guys? Because the one thing for me, unfortunately, is I suck at fighting games. Like I bought Fires and just got like I got Fires when it came out and just got washed repeatedly. Like I just, You know,
There's
so
a
I'm
difference.
a
This
bit
is an
skeptical.
This is an arena fighter.
That
Dude.
is true. That is
You
true.
don't gotta
Yeah,
worry about that.
that is
And
true.
And
they said that they're building off of Budokan Tenkaichi 3 and
Mm.
expanding upon that
right.
in terms of gameplay. So
Love that
if you
game.
played BT3, then you're gonna have a decent idea about how the gameplay is going to be looking, right?
Mhm.
So it's not gonna be like a brand new combat system or a very complex like fighters combat system, I'm assuming, because again,
Right.
this is the game that they're gonna want as many people as possible to play because
Yeah.
it's
Right.
such an anticipated game. They're not
Right.
gonna want to specifically focus it onto like specifically the fighting game community or something like that, right?
True.
Right.
And especially with the amount of characters that they're adding, there's no way they're gonna make it that complex, right?
Yeah, true. Because the thing is,
yeah.
fighting games always have that very meta, like the specific characters that are the best and all that kind of stuff. Whereas,
Right.
yeah, if you're making a game that has potentially 98 plus characters in it, it's not going to be like a competitive fighting game scene game because there's going to
Right.
be like 3 characters that everyone will play as or something, right? So,
But yeah, we're not talking like Melee, Fox, and Falco. You know, like this is, you know, it's gotta be like, you know, a little bit more simple. And not to mention, considering like even like you just said, right, the fact that they're obviously advertising this in more of a way that like to appeal to a wider audience. I would think that they would make it an easier barrier of entry, right? Because
Yeah.
that's something that I've always liked about the, you know, like Dragon Ball 3D arena fighters like Budokai, right? Is that they're a lot more easier to get into and just kind of pick up and play and not really like, you know, you're not sitting, I mean, maybe some people are, you know, and obviously that's fine if you enjoy the game like that, but obviously it's like, it's not really a game that you need to be labbing out 24/7 like fighters, you know.
yeah.
Obviously, you know, you can, but you know, it's a lot easier for somebody who's never played the game to just pick it up and just kind of play it. So,
I
you know,
would
I think that
assume,
aspect of it is cool.
Yeah, and again, there is like talks about DLC and stuff in the chat I'm seeing,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming like DLC probably could be. I mean, it might be the Daima characters that are DLC, right?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Because but
Yeah,
this
those are the
game
kind
might
of
not
ones.
even come out by
Yeah,
the time
they might
Daima's
not be
fully
out.
finished.
Yeah, so I could see them being the characters that aren't in it on release. Yeah.
The amount of Gokus that are going to be in the game is going
Dude,
to
there's
be
gonna be like
insane.
30 variations of Goku
Yeah.
at
Oh,
least.
I'm
right?
here for.
Like,
I
mean,
love Goku.
Goku mid, bro. Listen,
I
if we get
love
Goku
Goku.
mid back in the game, right? Because obviously in the you know in the old Budokai games, they you know obviously like divvied it up by you know like the time that it took place, right? In like the Dragon Ball series. You know, if we get like all these variations back, you know, like Goku early, Goku mid,
That'd
you
be
know,
fun.
what all these different things,
Why
that would
not?
be amazing. Goku
Plus-
Daima, you know, Goku Kid GT.
I
you
don't.
know.
Obviously, we don't want to stay on this for too long because we could. There's
Yeah,
so
I
many
was
things,
gonna
but like one thing I wanted to say
Yeah.
is, out of all the characters not shown in the trailer, who are like 1 or 2 that you really hope are gonna? I mean, some of them are gonna be a given almost, but you know, who are the couple of the characters that you really want to see? Because I mean, I'll start us off because obviously we're not gonna, you know, it's unlikely we'll get heroes and stuff like that, but we didn't see Goku Black. So that's going to be a super hype one, Goku Black for me for sure. And then obviously they said GT will be included potentially. Super Saiyan 4s will be cool. But yeah, who do you guys want to see that we haven't seen in the trailer?
I mean, the obvious pick for me personally is Gohan Beast.
Oh, yeah, and
being the
Beast, of
Gohan
course, yeah.
Beast
I mean,
fan
yeah,
that I
Gohan
have,
Beast
but
is a big one. I'm trying to think of
obviously
a character
besides
that's
that,
that's like not as like popular, right? Like a character that's like you're not expecting to be in the game, is what I'm trying to think of
mean,
off the top of my head.
honestly, Bardock, because Bardock is
Oh,
my favorite Dragon Ball character, so that would probably be for me
I think-
like who I would most want.
Someone did
I
mention
would
it
think
in the
you'd be
chat
right.
actually, but considering they originally came from other Dragon Ball games, I wonder if we'll see like Super Saiyan 3, Broly, and Vegeta and Bardock.
Yeah.
That's interesting because they're not technically heroes characters, right? And Super
No.
Saiyan 3, Vegeta and Broly were they from Raging Blast? I think so. They're from other Dragon Ball fighting games, so that would be super cool.
Or if they do some Xenoverse stuff, I mean, they could very well do like Super Saiyan 3 Bardock, you know, and
Mira
have him be in
Toa,
the game.
maybe
Mira Toa, yeah.
Denigra, like
I mean,
dude, that'd be so
Yeah,
cool.
see that's a
That'd be
curious
cool.
one. Like, will
Xenoverse
they be in the game? Because obviously, like they originate, you know, like Toa and Mira originate from Dragon Ball Online, but obviously they were more popularized by Xenoverse. But like, will they be in the game too?
Oh,
Obviously, is it just going to be? I would
I just
assume it
thought of
wouldn't just be main
I just thought of
continuity.
a very obvious character that we're not talking about
Yeah.
on Dokkan right now. Android 21. What if she's in the game? I would
Yeah,
love to see her.
dude.
interesting.
That would be
She's technically
wild.
a canon character, right?
Yeah, Vomi. Yeah,
Omi, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the actual Android 21 is not a part of like the actual Dragon Ball canon, but
Yeah.
it's Vomi, right? I think having Android
Mhm.
21 in the game would be really sick.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
that would be really cool.
Oh, dude, there's just
Yeah.
so much stuff we could see.
There's
It's
There's
great.
so much stuff.
Dragon Ball
We're gonna
fans
be.
feasting.
I
We are
have to
feasting.
let y'all know in chat and everything. We have to move on to our next segment because there's so much to talk about. We're just going to be talking about this all day.
I
if we
know.
keep going.
You legitimately
True.
could.
We got a show. We gotta get next to here, and I think there's a pretty cool segment next. We're gonna transition over to our trash takes segment, where I did go ahead and actually select a take from our Twitter account where we had you guys tell us your Dokkan trash takes. And this is gonna say as well. I'm sorry. I love sparking so much. I can't wait. We all can't wait. But
sir.
let's see what this trash take is. So right here's on the screen. Always trying to play with logic by skipping most banners, never doing singles, giving proper hidden potential or crypto units, exchanging characters for coins that the community deems worthy is just too tiring. Relaxing a bit and making YOLO decisions is good and increases enjoyability. So I'm assuming then this is this person's own take based on what they're saying. They didn't mention that was someone else's take. They're saying that listening to people's oh, this is how you should play the game. This is the banner you should summon on. This is what you should do for a potential system is just too much, and that you should do what makes you happy personally by playing the game. So I'll leave it off. I'm kind of like indecisive because I see it is always situational. But Ningen, what do you think about
I
this?
want to say, first of all, I need to point out. So it's funny that you picked this one because this guy, Mega Nice, I'm pretty sure he's in the chat now. This guy is well known in the community. He's a regular on my channel. We know him as a menace to the community because not only is he constantly coming into, he's the guy, I think he's done it on the podcast before. He's the guy that comes into the streams and makes everybody lose the game. But he is someone who I know I'm getting in on it now, but he is somebody who regularly has insane luck with single summons and pulls like all of these new units on single summons, and then comes into the chat and pushes the single summon agenda, which I very much disagree with on the most part. So this is kind of similar to discussions that we've had on my stream before about playing the game the way you want and stuff like that, which I mean, it's someone in the chat said it as well, it's kind of, in a way, it is like a gacha take in general, right? Like you could apply this to other gacha games as well. I mean, realistically, you could apply it to a whole bunch of things, but at the end of the day, I do kind of agree with the general consensus of it, right? Like, even in the years where everyone would say they were terrible, I'm always rainbowing all the heroes units because I love the heroes units. Right. I like summon for units that I like. Obviously, being a content creator is slightly different because we kind of summon for everything. But, I summon for the characters that I like. I use the teams that I like. I do the builds that I like, even if other people think they're not great, for like the hidden potential and stuff like that. So I think to a certain extent, this is very true, and that you should just always play the game the way you want to. I think the reason why this stuff comes up a lot in the community is the fact that, as content creators especially, some people on Twitter will just be overly enforcing of their opinions and be negative for no reason and stuff like that. That's just part of social media. It is what it is. But when it comes to things like content creators, I make summon or skip videos every time there's a banner and stuff like that. But those are coming from the perspective of giving advice to people who do want it for certain things, right? So, the thing that we see a lot of times, it's gone back and forth. I've seen tweets about it over the years and comments on videos and stuff, is people on the one hand will say, oh, don't listen to like, Truth or Ningen or Minato saying don't summon for this character. If you like him, you should just summon for him and use all your stones on him if you want to. But then 2 months later, it's the anniversary. And then that same person is like, oh, I didn't pull the anniversary unit because I only had 150 stones. And it's like, well, that's why we tell you not to summon on the random filler banner that comes out like 2 months before the anniversary, right? So that kind of advice is usually given with some sort of overarching reasoning. And I always say when I make my summon or skip videos, it's like, this advice is for people who are free to play or who don't spend a lot on the game. If you're somebody who, you do spend a bit here and there, or like this character is your favorite character in the whole of the Dragon Ball franchise, like it doesn't matter if I say don't summon on the banner, you're probably going to summon for them anyway. You just kind of have to be aware of, what's coming up in the future. These big value banners where you're going to get the most out of your stones if you are free to play. So for the most part, I definitely do agree. But obviously being someone who does give advice on this kind of stuff, obviously there is a reason why, we sort of give this advice, but I don't think it's a bad take at all. It's an interesting one. So I'll be interested to hear what you guys think.
I think that, at the end of the day, play what you want, play whatever makes you happy. However, I will, I think that, at least for me, I like giving like my point of views and stuff like that, and what I think is like the best, like what could give you the most fun chance to play the game, because a lot of times, like let's say anniversary units end up being the best units in the game, being the newest content, right? Anniversary a lot of times has the more genuinely most hype character selections, right? So I would always say that for success, if you want to have the best chances at winning, listening to people who maybe may play the game more than you or something like that, or just in general, could be better, but it's your choice at the end of the day. I think like what Ningen said is like, we'll say, oh yeah, you should skip LR Mega's banner because anniversary or New Year's is like right next. So then someone's gonna be like, well, no, I want LR Mega. Sure, summon for LR Mega, but like if you're not able to get the New Year's characters because you have like 200 stones, that's something that's also on you, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's just my kind of opinion on it. I would say it's hard. I don't know if I would say it's an L tick or a W tick though. It's like it depends on the situation, right?
For me, this is actually a hot button topic. I'm not gonna lie. So this is kind of a good trash take for me personally. So first of all, I'll just say from the get-go, I think it's a big fat W take in my opinion. I don't think I would argue anything L. Okay, I guess to be fair, making YOLO decisions, maybe like that's kind of a funny way to put it, but
yeah, I feel like that because that could mean that time when you get shafted and then you're like, oh, well, I'll do one more. I'll do one more. And then all of a sudden you've used like 400 extra stones. Like maybe you shouldn't do that just because YOLO, but
Yeah, right. I think though the general idea of playing the game how you want just because, you enjoy it more than that way, I 100% agree with that. What's really ironic about this take being chosen specifically is that Truth actually commented or made a tweet. It was like yesterday or today. I don't remember when it was actually, but I saw it today, and he said something like, "Yeah, I'm doing another Dokkan hot takes video. Put your hot takes in the comments." And ironically enough, I made a comment almost exactly like this. I said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, you should be able to just summon for a character that you like just because you like them, even if they're not a good unit, right? If you like just are playing the game for fun, right? And if you want to do a decision that maybe would be like quote unquote frowned upon by the community or would be something that maybe isn't like optimal, I think you should absolutely go for it and just do it if it makes you happy, because at the end of the day, right? This is a game, right? Games are meant to be fun, right? In the wise words of the boy Reggie, right? Why play it if it's not fun, right? That's the whole point of a game, because then at that point it becomes a chore, right? And so if you like, right, summoning for, like characters because they're optimal, or you like summoning for characters because, it's the best, like thing to summon for, then by all means go for it. But if you want to summon for a character just because you like them, or you find them more fun than other characters that might be better for, like your account technically, or beating more difficult content or something like that, then I would say by all means go for it, right? Like, obviously then, I would say the only maybe downside, of course, would be it would depend on then how much of the other content that's maybe a little bit more difficult that you could tackle. But with that being said, right, obviously because there's so many options in Dokkan nowadays, right, there's so many teams that you can use that are good, then on that front, right, obviously, you have options that you can use, characters that you can enjoy that are even still good, right? And I mean, like, for me personally, I am a person who doesn't necessarily care about what a unit does, right? I've talked about this briefly on the podcast before, but like, I'm always a lot more interested in seeing like the new characters' animations, and like discussing how Dokkan like runs the game, and like the different decisions they make in the banners and stuff like that, rather than like being as interested in the nitty-gritty of the kit. Like, to an extent, obviously I care what they do, of course. I mean, like, it's a gacha game, right? You're summoning for the full package, right? But at the end of the day, I certainly care more about like the aesthetics and just enjoying Dokkan in my own way than, like playing the game the way that someone else is telling me to play the game, right? I mean, I kind of agree a lot with the comment that Crow made in the chat there, right? It's like, it's not like the community has like a hold on your account or something like that, like you can do whatever you want. It's a single player game, right? Obviously it's not like your decisions are going to be affecting other people like that, right? So
yeah, I think it's just one of those things that's like, people, it is like we said, it's kind of like just the way social media is, right? Like if you post your screenshot, it's like, oh yes, I finally rainbowed my like God Goku, and then a bunch of comments are like, oh, you've given him the wrong hidden potential build and stuff like that. Then it's like, it kind of
that
sucks
feels
the fun
terrible.
out of the post that you made. But like,
unfortunately,
people are just going to be like that, and it's
right. I mean, that's just the internet, that's, at the end of the day, you just kind of got to learn to ignore those people and just kind of move on with your day and enjoy what you want to enjoy. Because if it makes you happy, why would you let other people tell you, not to be happy, or like how to be happy,
No, exactly.
What makes you happy?
The main thing that you said that because we've talked about it before, it was shout out to our boy Toon when he was here. I still have people quoting the classic "just use items, dummy" at me all the time.
Yeah,
right? But like,
exactly.
It goes back to that exact thing about items and stuff, right? You couldn't have phrased it any better. Is at the end of the day, like, the community has its own standards for different things. People make tier lists. There's all this kind of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you play the game to have fun. So if you make a goofy team that you think is fun because it has a bunch of your favorite characters on it, and you can beat all of the red zone stages with it, but only if you use items, who cares? Because you had fun playing the game, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand with that same thing, right? So to circle back around, it just goes back to what I said about, we give out advice sometimes for people when it comes to, especially because the game is a game that, some people do put their money into. So if you're somebody
limited resources, right?
Exactly, right. So if you're somebody who you put in a little bit of money here and there, and you maybe would like to, but you can't afford to put in any more, then obviously you do kind of have to be a bit more sort of careful and pick and choose what you do.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you should obviously still have that freedom to do whatever you want, and you should summon for the characters that will make you enjoy the game. So and I think it's like exactly like you said, right? It doesn't mean that the opposite is bad. If you're somebody who only wants to summon for the characters who are the most optimal, best characters in the game, and they come on a banner that is the best value banner, then there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how you have fun with the game, right? So
exactly.
all of that stuff, there's room for all of that stuff under the same umbrella of just having fun playing the game at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So it would be nice if
And-
everyone was nicer
yeah.
to each other on social media. But yeah,
Right.
if someone posts a hidden
Yeah.
potential build that you don't like, rather than say, oh, this hidden potential build's trash because it's different from mine, why not just say something like, oh, that build's different from mine. What do you like about this build? And maybe they'll tell you, and maybe they might have a good idea, you know?
Full dodge or nothing.
Oh, yeah, all right, here we go. Truth Junior bows before his
Junior,
father.
baby.
Yeah.
That's crazy. The only
I
thing
think that
I did want to
people
add one
should
more
build their
thing.
characters how they want and
Yeah.
build the game how they want because it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. No, the only thing I wanted to add on to Ningen's point was that I just wanted to like point out, the whole thing. This is like, I guess, kind of sort of separate, but like, how Ningen was saying, like, obviously the whole thing of like, when people make like should you summon videos or people give like advice like, oh, should you summon on this banner or something like that, right? I think that the other thing that people just don't take into consideration, because I see a lot of the time people talk about, right, that it's like, oh, like this person told me not to summon on the banner, and then here they are using like 1,000 stones or like 2,000 stones on the banner. And then I see people get like frustrated about that, which I think is interesting. I guess maybe just people aren't thinking about it as much, or like they aren't like taking the context into consideration or something like that, because obviously like Ningen said, right? You're a content creator, so of course you're going to summon on the banner because it's more content to, make like YouTube videos on, or just, you're a whale,
exactly.
so you spend money on the game. But obviously the whole point is you're trying to give advice from a perspective of like, hey, I play the game a lot, and not to mention, right? Obviously, it's for the people who have these limited resources and aren't necessarily spending money on the game. So you're trying to advise them to, make the wisest decision with the currency that they have at hand, right? For their, quote unquote optimal experience. But at the end of the day, right, the other thing that I think people just like, I don't know if they just don't understand or they just don't think about it, is it's just advice. You don't have to take it, right?
Yeah,
It's not like, it's not like, you're telling them like, oh my gosh, if you don't skip this banner, you're ostracized from the community. You're banned from Dokkan. It's like,
You're deleting your accounts.
Right, we're deleting, I'm hacking into your account and stealing it. It's like, no, that's so stupid. It's
And
like,
it's
at the end of the day, it's just your word.
It's funny that you say that, because I have seen people say that over the years, especially to like people like Truth and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you said don't summon, but now here you are doing like your Rainbow level 10 Link showcase. And it's like, yeah, the advice is based on like, the advice is always going to be different for different people. And that's
The advice
why
is to the viewers.
yeah, that's why I say in those videos at the start, I pretty much always try and repeat, and I say, I end up saying like, well, you guys know I say this in every video. It's like, this is for people who are free to play or don't, or spend a little bit, but here and there. It's like saying to someone, you could give somebody the advice. If somebody is, doesn't have a lot of money, it's like, hey, you could buy some of these non-brand versions of products because they're cheaper, but they're just as good. And then they turn around and go, well, you buy all the brand name products. It's like, yeah, because I'm a millionaire. Like, they're not the same scenario, right? Like, it's people can afford different things. If you are someone, like I said, there are people out there who spend a little bit of money. They would maybe like to spend more if they could, but they can't. And so those people need to be careful with like how they plan their resources and stuff like that. Right. So those are the people that we give advice to for the most part. But circling it back to the take, it's one of those things, even though I would give someone advice and say, oh, if you're free to play, like I think I said this when I talked about her, if you're free to play, probably don't need to summon for Android 21, right? She's not like a unit you have to have. Her team is cool, but it's not like the best team in the game. But then if someone who is free to play then goes, oh, well, I summoned her because I like Android 21, I'm just going to be like,
power to you.
Well, yeah, cool. I like Android 21. Fine. I'm not going to say, oh, how could you summon her if you're free to play? I said you shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, so I think
the only character I would have ever done that for is Raditz. Kind of.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he's like that bad, but like, even then, like number one Raditz fan, have fun, right?
Right. I mean,
at the end of the day,
Mr. Raditz Defender on Twitter, you already know that man's gonna be Rainbow and Raditz. Like, we don't,
we already have Raditz for sure, right?
But, oh, I'm sure he must,
and that's it. So I'm not sure how the poll in the chat's looking like, but I would say us three agree that this is basically W
Yeah.
take at the end of the day. For the most part, that doesn't mean you should make the worst decisions ever because you find it fun. Like, oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, summon on this category banner and use my 50 stones. No, like, use my 300 stones of this category banner with physical Goasu featured because I want to rainbow him. Like, no, there's
Oh
limits,
boy.
but you could definitely make your own decisions. And
You don't want a rainbow physical Zamasu? What the heck?
Yeah, okay.
He's so good. He dodges, he seals, he's the guy.
Anyways,
but yeah.
how is the poll in chat looking like, Ningen?
So like, we'll end the poll now. It's at a very reasonable 70-30 split. I did see a couple of people say, I think it's an issue with the YouTube app, but I think it's happened on a previous episode. I think it's happened on one of my streams before as well, where people can't actually see what the options are. So I think at least one person in the chat said they picked the wrong one by accident. But it's mostly leaning towards W, so
that's the poll says 69.
Yeah, we talked about this I think on the last episode. There's always like a 1% margin of error.
Okay,
so what it really means is that like
it's
W is probably like 69 point something and L is 30 point something, but then it doesn't show that. So there's a slight margin of error, but
YouTube can't do math. This is insane.
Yeah, our boy Mega Nice. That's the other thing as well. Mega Nice, the menace to the community, also is known for making the hilarious meme edits of like Toon and Minato and stuff on Twitter. He's made a bunch of funny ones of me, like the Masked DSP. The one that was the Minato and Toon as like the guy kicking the alligator. That's all our boy Mega Nice right here. So as he said in the chat, very ironic being the meme lord that he is, that the W take got 69%. So.
That is funny.
You love to see it.
Mega nice.
Nice.
Yep. Well, I mean, there we go. That is basically it for the trash take segment. But we have one last thing to cover here, and that is, of course, the donos and super chats that we do read out at the end of this show. So that is something that Ningen has available on his end that he'll just go ahead and read out.
Yep, I do have them up here. We have a few for today, so shout out to all these guys. We have Philip Rodriguez with the $5 super chat. He says, since Dokkan is everyone's favorite Dragon Ball game, which is your second favorite? Mine would be Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Shout out to Burst Limit. Doesn't get talked about very much. So, man, I think... See, the funny thing is, I was going to say during the segment where we were talking about the new one, I very briefly played Budokai Tenkaichi 3 with some friends that I met when I first started working at a retail job like 15 years ago or something maybe. But like I never really played the series that much. So funnily enough, outside of Dokkan, when it comes to actual Dragon Ball games, the one that I probably played the most, I actually really, really enjoyed, and I think I've talked about it before on the channel and stuff at some point, is Fusions on the DS.
Yes,
really like Dragon Ball Fusions. It was cool to me, obviously, then when they did the Dokkan collab, because I actually played the game. That's something that I would love to see a sequel to, because now that we have so many more characters, having all those crazy... mixed up fusions of all the characters, and then we could have another Fusions collab in Dokkan as well. It'd be great.
That's true.
So yeah, Fusions is definitely is my pick for that. So
what about you, Dokkan Assets? I'll leave mine next.
Sure. So funny enough with BT3, I have actually played. I played that game quite a bit. I have a copy on the Wii actually. So I played the Wii version with the motion controls, where you're like whipping your hands around and stuff to like do all the attacks. So that was very fun. And obviously the cool thing about that too is you can just play the game with like regular joystick controls, which I've also done. And it's just a very fun game. But I think in terms of my favorite Dragon Ball game, ironically enough, Ningen, that you say that, I swear we just have like the same taste in Dragon Ball stuff or something. Because I was going to bring up Fusions because I love Dragon Ball Fusions. That game is really special to me because when after I graduated high school, me and my homie Abel, shout out to the boy, we went on a very long road trip, a very family road trip, very long family road trip. And basically we both had our 3DSs and they were both modded at the time. And Fusions was one of the games that we had on there because we couldn't find a physical copy. I promise you, I looked so hard to try and find one, but I couldn't find one. So that was one of the games that we ended up playing on that trip. So it's a very near and dear game to my heart. But the game that I would put on a tier above that, to be honest with you, which is also another 3DS game and another game that was basically like me and the boy were flip-flopping between this and Fusions on that whole trip, was Dragon Ball Extreme Butoden on the 3DS. It is a Dragon Ball 2D fighting game that's a little bit of that like pixel style, and it is actually a Arc System Works game. It is the like same developers as fighters, right? The same, because if you look at the like some of the moves and stuff in Extreme Butoden, a lot of those moves are actually in fighters for like the same characters, like Super Saiyan Goku and whatever. Like some of his moves are the same in both. But I don't know, that game was just not only super cool to have like a 2D fighting game on the go, to just kind of like play with friends. That game was one of the last games that I remember that had like secret characters that you could unlock and like codes and stuff like that you could input to unlock characters. Like God, Goku and Broly were in the game, but I think you had to like add some kind of like special code on like the code entry screen to get them. And they had like these wild assist characters in the game that were just like, you know, anything from like, you know, something from Dragon Ball to something like Gogeta, right? So it was just such a wide variety of representation for the series, and the game was just, of course, on top of it all, extremely fun. And so, yeah, I don't know, just kind of all those aspects really makes it, I would say it's probably my favorite Dragon Ball game, outside of Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you mentioned about the physical copy, I had to go and very quickly go double check my shelf just to make sure that it was still there. But yes, I do still have the physical copy of Dragon Ball Fusions. I haven't played it for ages because it's, you know, I don't even know where my DS is actually, but I still have my copy of Dragon Ball Fusion. So
let's go.
Dragon Ball Fusions 2 when?
I hope so, man. I really hope they do, because that, could you imagine that too with modern graphics? Oh my gosh.
Even if it was still just a DS game, or like, I guess at this point it would probably be like a Switch game more so than anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that would be awesome. But yeah, Minato, I'm intrigued.
Oh
yeah, what is you?
I mean, for me, what is I? I am Minato.
What is I? What are you?
Yeah, okay. For me personally, a Budokai 3, specifically the 2.5D one, that was really sick. I just had tons of fun playing that game. I just like the combat system. The story was fun to go through, right? And I played that game like every day. It was so fun. And there's not really much to say about that. I mean, we all have played Budokai 3. I'm assuming, right, on the PlayStation 2. But dude, good times. And then honorable mention to Super Dragon Ball Z, I think. I think that was another PlayStation 2 game. It was kind of closer to a fighting game. I used to play that game a lot as well. I'm not sure if you guys have played Super Dragon Ball Z, but
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever even heard of it, to be honest.
Super Dragon Ball Z, that was pretty sick. Hold up, let me make sure it's the right name. Yeah, it's the Super Dragon Ball Z. It's like kind of closer to a fighting game. It was fun. You could get like you can unlock like Mecha Frieza with the revive, or like, you know, cooler. Oh no, actually no, that was Budokai 3. But Super Dragon Ball Z, you did have Mecha Frieza available. I do remember that. You had Z Sword Gohan. Even Demon King Piccolo was in there. I'm seeing here. Wow. It was so fun. I had a fun time playing that, and I love the combat system as well. It was pretty sick in my opinion. So yeah, I would say those two for sure.
I think I will say as well, I know it's gone on so long now that it's kind of a meme, but I would give a shout out to like Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2, because obviously as a Dragon Ball fan at the age that I was when it came out, like making a game like that where you can make your own character and then going off and doing the story mode where you're playing through all the events of the timelines and stuff as your own custom character. That was obviously very cool. But yeah. Right, yeah. So shout out to Philip Rodriguez, great question. Thank you for the super chat. Shout out to you again as well. In fact, he did also gift a bunch of memberships on the channel. So
thank you.
I appreciate you. Shout out to, I don't know if this is a word, but it's TIQDM. Is it Teekdom? I don't know. I apologize if that is horrendously wrong. But Priest91, TJX Jameson, Lava Hex 17, and P Merc. So shout out to you guys for your memberships. Shout out to Jeffo for becoming a channel member as well. And shout out to Chili for the £2 super chat. And this was during that final segment when we were talking about the trash takes. He said, summon on the characters that makes you happy. So, yeah, I mean, I think we kind of all came to that sort of consensus at the end there. Chat was very heavily weighted towards the W take. So, yeah, I feel like that was a pretty successful one from our boy. Mega nice. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing now, because I feel that's going to fuel his.
Up Mega Nice.
I was going to say it's going to fuel his menaceness. So we'll see. We'll see how we go. But shout out to Mega Nice.
Well, there you go. But that is it, I guess, for this week's episode of Slam on Super Podcast, episode 15. Next week we'll have the part 2 of LAR out. And another thing, saying last minute, usually around the 15th, 16th of every month or so is not only around VJump time, but when we get some sort of reveal for the card arts of the New Year's characters. So there's a chance we might have the New Year's arts. If not, the following week we'll definitely have a good idea of what the New Year's characters are going to be. But
let me scroll like a madman real quick, because I know someone tweeted about it. I'll find it. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the 15th or 16th, because last year they gave us Beast, Gohan, and Piccolo, obviously the teaser. The year before, we got the SSR arts for Goku and Kid Buu, if you guys remember that. Right?
Oh yeah.
They gave us that. So
Gohan Beast was announced at oh my gosh, what live event was that? It wasn't Battle Hour.
I forgot what it was, but they could just at least bring out some
I'll have to look.
JP producer thing.
You know, the crazy thing is, it just reminds me, because wasn't it? It was the teaser image was the thing where it was the actual Beast Gohan and Orange Piccolo, which then ended up becoming the background arts, and then we didn't actually get. Imagine if they did something like that again. Oh boy!
Oh my gosh, dude! Listen. Dokkan Battle devs, if you're somehow watching, my only thing that I ask you is that just don't make the same mistake again, brother. Please, nobody wants that to happen again.
I bet we're gonna get good luck next time. But thanks to everyone for watching the podcast this time. Catch us next week, and we'll see you then. Bye, guys.
Have a good one.
See ya.